explain it.
That's what you heard.
Exactly.
And it became then, yeah.
That is the word.
So it became picky.
It became picky. And with the time, it also evolves. Depending, for instance, a picky, the slang of picky in my neck of the woods is peng.
The slang of a slang is a slang.
So you wonder, how did it picky,
Bang.
motorbike, peng? It's called peng.
So how did that come about?
I'm really not sure.
It's just someone trying to figure out picky.
Yeah,
Bang.
peng. What- Or, for instance, what is a maiden name, Matilda? How is it pronounced with the influence of, say, your mother tongue?
Matilda is Matilda.
As is Matilda.
Hey. Matilda.
Yes.
Okay. Very nice.
Okay. And then the others like Scholastica.
Scholastica isn't that difficult. At least that one, it gives you room to sort of like play around with these linguistics nuances. But like my first name, Charles, that one clearly.
Jalis.
Okay, in your mother tongue, brother.
Shaus.
Oh, Sharudi.
Sharudi.
Sharudi. Same name.
Sharudi.
And in my neck of the wood, Chalis.
This is Chalis. It's only the mass I would just say it as it is. Chalice.
Yes.
This is chalice. The Nylons are chalice.
Do not underestimate the influence.
Hey, anyway, stick around because we're going to have some interesting conversations this morning. Yesterday, we got a call from somebody in Diani who was giving us their own personal experience of COVID-19, where they decided to deliberately get themselves exposed to the virus so that they can build their own immunity. And that sounded a bit controversial. So we're going to revisit that topic today. And we'll have the caller on the line. And also we'll bring in some experts and try and interrogate the veracity of what the gentleman and his friends were doing by exposing themselves to the virus. We also will be discussing a lot of things. Today, the Senate is supposed to go back and, for the 7th time,
Again.
attempt to pass this.
Maybe 7 is a charm.
Not only just 7, it's amidst threats from party,
Yes.
of high-ranking party officials.
Yeah.
Yes.
Get it right or get out.
Or yes, the likelihood of
Yeah.
you being ejected from the party, etc., etc.
Toe the line.
Toe the line, toe the party line.
Or else.
Or else.
Yes. So that also comes up in for conversation today, as well as what's happening in Syokimau, the issue of residents of Syokimau versus a company that they allege is polluting their environment. So we'll be having that conversation as well. But every day on this show, we must discuss the global pandemic and its effects in the country and the world. And this is COVID-19 in the last 24 hours for Kenyans.
544.
Oh, well done.
Thank you.
Well done. You
Forty
got,
what?
you got that one spot on. 44.
New cases.
Eh-heh.
Hey, okay. Unfortunately, the fatality is now at 382. 8,740 recoveries, which is still impressive. And total caseload now in the country, 22,597. Now, if you want to look at coronavirus specifically in Kenya, the what would call hotspot counties still continue to be Nairobi, Migori, and Uasin Gishu. Still, yes, Kisumu, Narok, Kilifi, and Nyeri. And Garissa, Makueni, Kericho, Murang'a, Turkana, Kwale, Laikipia, Siaya, Taita Taveta, all of those having found cases, above 50 cases in the last 24 hours. And the numbers continue to rise.
And we are still doing 2,000 to 5,000 tests a day,
Yes.
depending on the mood or the weather or
just
Other
what we can do
factors,
today.
such other factors. Okay.
318,376 tests done so far in the country. All right. Looking at the United States, they talk about the fact that cases now have not jumped quite significantly in the last couple of days. But what they've seen is that there have been more deaths that they've had to realize over these last couple of days, with about 4,000 deaths. Now, without about 4,000 deaths having been recorded over the last 48 hours, 4,862,174 cases in the United States, with 158,929 deaths. Brazil, numbers continue to rise, 2,751,665, with now almost 100,000 deaths at 94,702. South Africa gained, well, it's not, I wouldn't call it a gain, but increased by about 10,000 cases now, that has pushed them up since yesterday to 516,862. Of course, with the rigorous testing still going on, and having recorded 8,539 deaths so far. Mexico, 443,813, with 4,767 deaths in the last 7 hours. Cases, and then 266 deaths in the last 7 hours. The South American countries and Central American countries continue to gain. One country that has popped out now as, with an interesting mark is Belgium. Belgium has not really had an issue with this. Well, I mean, quite a number. Well, look, with a population of 11 million people, they have 70,000 cases, but in the last 24 hours they've seen a surge with 465 new cases around the country. And what worried them a little bit was that they also recorded 5 deaths from this, whereas things had been stable in Belgium for a very long time. Australia still continues to record cases, 410 cases in the last 6 hours, with 11 deaths. Yesterday there were no deaths from the cases that they had recovered, but now, having recorded 11 deaths by the end of their today, which now begins ours.
Australia is interesting in the sense that Victoria, that particular state called Victoria, they have actually decided to become very tough. $3,500 fine if you're found outside your house without a mask.
Yep.
Uh,
Taking things seriously.
Dollars, American dollars.
American or Australian?
Dollars.
American dollars.
3,500.
Yes. And so far,
How many people have?
so far, if I am to go by the BBC, I think 80 people have already qualified for that distinction.
Okay. So you can just buy your way,
Well, the truth of the matter is that if you have it, but if you
3,500
don't,
US dollars, that's a very
That's
high
a lot
number.
of money.
it's supposed to be a genuine deterrent. They do not want you to play around with it. But when you talk about deaths, America still leads.
Yes, they do.
Because America records something like 1,000 deaths on a daily basis. And their toll has reached, I think, 155,000 and moving up.
158,000 actually.
Oh,
now.
they've reached it now.
Yes.
And they're moving forward. Yes.
My goodness.
Yep.
My goodness. As we continue to track the spread of COVID-19, we also still continue to remind ourselves that you've got a personal responsibility to take care of yourself and your loved ones. Do everything that all the global experts have unanimously agreed that you can play a part in stopping the spread of COVID-19 and also in reducing the risk of your own body getting infected with COVID-19. So do play your part, and then you can question everybody else and the governments and Trump and whoever else you want to question, and China. But first of all, keep yourself safe. 16 minutes after 6, this is a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. We want to take a look at the weather, and then we start to look at the big stories of the day. Good morning.
The weather with Spice FM.
All right, it's a Tuesday morning, and let's see what the skies have in store for us today. It's mostly cloudy in Nairobi at 13 degrees. Going to go to a high of 23 and lows of 11 today. In Nakuru, 12 degrees and partly cloudy, highs of 22 with a wet afternoon, highs and we'll see lows of 11. 13 degrees and mostly cloudy in Njeri, 22 the high and lows of 13. Eldoret is cloudy this morning and thunderstorms will come there later, highs of 18 and lows of 12. 19 degrees and mostly cloudy in Kisumu, highs of 27 and lows of 18. It's 16 degrees in Kakamega and mostly cloudy. We'll see highs of 23 and lows of 15 with a chance of a shower in the afternoon. Malindi's already sprinkling with light rain showers at 24 degrees. The rain is likely to continue well into Wednesday, highs of 28 and lows of 24. It's partly cloudy in Mombasa at 23 degrees, highs of 28 with showers expected in the afternoon. All right, out of Kenya now into Uganda, where it's partly cloudy at 17 degrees. We'll see highs of 24 and lows of 16. Dar es Salaam is clear this morning at 22, highs of 30 and lows of 21 with clear conditions throughout most of the day. In Joburg at 7 degrees, it'll be clear skies all through with sunny conditions, highs of 21 and lows of 5. Looking into Lagos at 24 degrees, clear skies, we'll see highs of 29 and lows of 22. It's 14 degrees and clear in London, highs of 24 and lows of 13. In Paris, the sun is already out this early, highs of 25 and lows of 13. And we'll look at New York at 22 degrees, still Monday night. Getting into Tuesday morning, thunderstorms are expected with highs of 32 and lows of 21 with a tropical storm warning for New York as they wake up.
Pure golden sound and good talk. 94.4 Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
It is 20 minutes after 6 o'clock. Thank you very much for tuning in to the Situation Room. This is an every morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. In the room is Nduh Okoh, CT Muga, Eric Latiff. Let's take a look at the big stories of the day. Go first, CT.
Well, I am not going to talk about politics.
Not for now, anyway.
No, we'll talk about it later. But this story caught my eye in the Standard. There's a lady by the name of Dr. Adair. She's director of research. The information we have is she got a PhD, Edinburgh University in Scotland at the age of 29. That was in 1997.
You're right.
And she has gotten herself a nice, swanking new international job. Yes, I think when a Kenyan ascends to such heights.
What's the job?
Well, she, let me read it for you. So okay?
Come to the mic.
I am actually far away from the mic.
Yeah.
All right. First of all, she led the development of East African Center for Internet Governance and Policy at Strathmore University, served as the Director of Business of Process Outsourcing at the Ministry of ICT. In 2013, was appointed by former President Mwai Kibaki as founder, CEO of the Konza Technopolis Development Authority.
Okay.
All right.
And now she gets herself a job as the director for research at the World Wide Web Foundation.
Yes, she does.
So when you write www.spicefm.co.ke,
she's in charge.
she's there. Dr. Adair is www.
She's in charge of www, and there are 3 W's, not 4.
Okay.
Okay.
Director of research. This is a big thing because it basically just shows that recognition at such high levels is something we sort of get used to as Kenyans. We just see, right? People get in the rise to such. Recently, she led development of the East Africa Center for Internet Governance and Policy at Strathmore University. She served as a BPO director in the ICT ministry, as you said. She oversaw research work in Africa as a research fellow at the United Nations University's Institute for New Technologies, and research manager at the African Technology Policy Studies Network. She is globally recognized as an exemplary leader, driven by a commitment to tackling global inequality with strong beliefs that web and digital technologies must be used to expand opportunities and drive development. So when you talk about, our capacity as a country,
Our human resource.
our human resource capacity as a country to even drive change, just the same, if we talk about just technology, the people who work in the Ministry of ICT, the people who work in the ICT authority, if you just look at the names and their credentials, you sit back and you ask yourself, I'm sure these people think at a global level, and they're able to even think at a local level and see things that can be done.
They do.
But something goes wrong somewhere.
It does. It does. One thing about the civil service that perhaps is not understood, I don't think there is any one single place where you find people who are genuinely really qualified for whatever jobs they have, like the civil service. And the civil service, for the longest time, apart from simply employing people who had the qualifications, they ensured that they developed that particular
skill.
resource and the skill and fine-tuned it with training, further training, etc., etc., etc. So if it's a question of decision-making based on knowledge, government ministries have the personnel. They have the human resource.
Oh, yes.
And that is any ministry you can think of.
Imagine. And that's why you find Kenyans actually going to advise other governments. People have left this Ministry of ICT. Someone called Paul Kukubo, for example,
Yes.
initially was a founder of the ICT authority. He and others like Dr. Adair developed the roadmap for Kenya's expansion of internet connectivity in the country and all, has gone to advise other governments. Rwanda, worked elsewhere,
Actually,
globally. People have moved into Google. But
the thing about it for a single second, by the time you have, as one of, if not the greatest foreign exchange earner being remittances, it tells you. Now, there are those who argue, well, there are these people who work in this sort of job, but you have some ability and some qualification. That is why you are there. They wouldn't take you simply because they like the way you look.
No.
Nope. There's something about the ability to communicate, ability to work, ability to think through things that attracts very many people to Kenyans.
And yet, you see, the benefits that other people can see or can derive from this particular resource. And again, it begs the question, we don't seem to want to benefit fully from these resources that are ours.
No.
Okay.
Other stories.
Since we're in technology, how about we just continue? And on the front page of The Nation, how a Kenyan family stole billions in the US. Cybercrime. This family has made history for stealing the largest amount of money without being involved in tendering or firing a single shot, making Kenya a global hotspot of technology-based crime. When the FBI started a global hunt for scammers, codenamed Operation Rewired, Robert Mutua Muli was arrested at an airport in Ohio, Texas, just as he was about to board a plane to Kenya. Now we're looking into the story. In November last year, the National Police Service said it had received information from Interpol that some Kenyans were wanted in the US for alleged fraud offenses. One of the names released was that of Edwin Sila Nyumu, a man who had been on the run. Nyumu and his family were behind a US-based crime syndicate that laundered hundreds of millions of dollars in the country, but had managed to escape the FBI dragnet and hide in Mlolongo, Machakos, here. Right?
Around the corner.
Just here.
Just down the road.
Right. In total, the family members were believed to have stolen more than 2 billion shillings in tax fraud. It has been established it's one of the biggest cybercrime heists in the blossoming industry. How did they do this?
That cash came to Kenya?
Some of it did.
Some of it would have landed here, right?
And this is undeclared remittances.
Exactly. Okay. Now.
We're doing well, City. You are normal. Globally. Continue.
Okay.
This representation is interesting, isn't it?
It is.
Here we've been represented.
Very well.
Been represented. The
Go
biggest.
on.
Okay? Now, how this Kenyan family laid a scamming web and managed to milk billions of dollars and send them to Kenya without raising the arm has always petrified investigators. For 12 years, since his name first featured in the Interpol list, Nyumu oiled the palms of all those who knew his identity, and according to how the nation was informed, he became a cash cow of police officers until the money ran out last year. But by then and after 12 years, he could no longer be charged with fraud since the federal crimes had a statute of limitations, which protects people from being harassed and having to constantly defend themselves from old charges. Now, records indicate that on November 6th, 2019, Corporal Gerald Kamwaro swore an affidavit seeking a fresh order to arrest Nyumu. Mr. Kamwaro said Nairobi's Interpol office had contacted the U.S. National Central Bureau, Interpol, to forward extradition documents against the suspect. Why police had not been able to trace Nyumu and his millions of dollars was never explained. Kamwaro, while seeking the order, said the matter is of public interest since it touches on fraud against another government. It goes deeper.
Hey. So,
They stole money and sent it to Kenya.
so how do they do it?
Okay.
How is this executed?
How it's done.
Eh.
In the US, all citizens are allowed to file claims for excess tax paid using a form known as the W-2. Okay? The form is issued by employers stating how much an employee was paid for the year. It is similar to the P9 form issued in Kenya by the Kenya Revenue Authority for filing usual returns. Okay?
Light bulb.
Scammers file fake tax returns using the details of the elderly or dead people and then apply for a refund.
Okay.
Then they cash the checks and transfer the proceeds to third parties who withdraw the money at a commission. So you can imagine if they're doing this over
And with many
many
people.
people across board, over and over and over again. All right? So this is what had been happening to the tune of $2 billion and 2 billion shillings rather.
Over time,
And
eh?
over time. And what they did to be able to launder this
By the way, there are
money.
those who claim it is 3.
Okay.
3B, yeah?
What they were able to do in
The
terms
other
of
one B is
laundering
the-
this money is that they sunk then this money into real estate in Kenya. And so it's
And
usually...
you say there's a bust. There's a bubble, there's a bust.
But of interest, some of the charges that were levied against them,
Yeah.
I think, were dropped because of these statutes of limitations.
limitations. It's been 12 years.
12 years down the line. And
Clever, isn't it? I mean, you know that I just need to survive 12
12 years. After 12 years,
12 years, I'm free.
you know, the thing that I find of interest here is that these are clearly, really, genuinely clever people. Genuinely. They looked at that system and they realized,
there's a gap here,
yes, let's improve on the ghost worker.
or the dead.
Yes, because ghost workers and how you can siphon money using that is, should we say, it is something that has nestled itself and found a resting place in Kenya. All the time there's an issue of ghost workers. You take it a step further and you figure, man, these people even give you a refund on your taxes and it actually arrives and there's a check.
The
Goodness
thing is
gracious
that
me.
their IRS works in terms of paying refunds.
It works. It works. Now, what I find amazing,
Uh-huh.
I'm looking at the brains behind this and I'm thinking, what process did these people take in arriving at wanting to do this as opposed to actually simply just working and using the same brains to actually make money? Because these are really genuinely clever people.
And it was a family business, right? So
They,
you must
they
understand. it went
basically
from
just one person just saw an
father to
opportunity,
son,
loophole, found
father
it
to
working,
daughter.
and you are
Brought-
not caught.
brought the rest of the
So it
family.
becomes a business.
And they brought the whole family into it because you can imagine Paul Kilyungu Nyomo stole 200 million from the US government in 2007. His daughter was based in the US, right? And then there was another 201 million shillings that was stolen by Robert Mutua, who is a cousin of Nyumu. Monica is the daughter of Nyumu, and her son, Jeffrey Silas Ndugi, stole 7.7 million and is serving 10 years after his arrest in 2017. He stole this from the US government through tax fraud. Loretta Wavinya and Lillian Nzongi, who are Nyumu's nieces, so you see now, son, daughter, nieces, they stole 945 million from the US government, and they are also still now, Loretta is serving a 14-year term in prison for in the U.S. for wire fraud and aggravated identity theft, and she was sentenced in 2009. She's expected to be released in 2023 and immediately deported to Kenya.
Right.
Lillian was sentenced to 5 years and 10 months. She had never been heard of since being released and is not known whether she is in Kenya or the US and is unable to be traced.
Right. Or the Bahamas.
Or the Bahamas. As for Wavinya, the commutation of her commutation request was denied by retired US President Obama in 2017, meaning that she would have to serve her full term.
But the godfather is free.
The godfather is free because of the statute of limitations. The
Clever
charges
chap.
against him were dropped.
Clever chap. I think this guy should be studied. Clever chap. 26 minutes to 7 o'clock. Let's take a look at what's happening on the roads this early morning and how much you're able to make on your way to work just by thinking outside the car. This is a Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Keep it right here for more big stories of the day.
Spice FM, Malindi.
All right, Manic Monday ended a few hours ago actually. Let's see what Tuesday looks like on the roads this morning. It doesn't look too crazy just yet, and we're hoping it remains that way at least for most of the morning. Thika Road, the roads are very clear, heading into and out of the CBD. In and outbound, it's looking very good. We don't have much of a problem right now. Service lanes are open and can be used without any issue. Let's look roundabout then to the bypasses of the eastern and the southern. They look good, and then leading to Mombasa Road, where we have a little bit of a hold up right out the SGR, and traffic is moving extremely slowly at the moment, but I'm sure that will open up in no time. We don't see a reason why there should be extended traffic this morning, but if we do, we'll let you know. Coming out of Westlands also looks pretty good for now. Getting to the roundabout and then out towards the city centre will not be too crazy. Langata Road looks good, as does Ngong Road. Heading to the roundabout at the city mortuary and then towards Valley Road, also looking very good getting into the CBD. All right, so it's good all around. Hopefully I can keep those adjectives for the whole morning. Fingers crossed. Spice FM KE on Twitter. Let us know what you see.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
You're still
Perplexed,
shocked.
flabberwhelmed, and overgasted.
No, the thing that has actually that is making me perhaps ponder so profusely is that these are people who are going to be considered by very many people to be heroes.
Yes, no, they have money.
I'm raising my hand.
Honestly. You see, for me, the thing that is actually disturbing,
Yep.
if this happened in the US,
Yep.
where we are led to believe they have systems that know how to detect these things,
Yep.
it makes me ask, what on earth then do I think can be happening in Kenya?
Lie.
In this country?
Yes.
Well, in this country, we've seen KRA trying to nab some people for faking VAT receipts. You've seen that. And claiming, especially for VAT, right? So where you're supposed to remit X amount for VAT, you just go and procure a receipt from someone. So you claim that you have an input. Is it input or output or one that you need to claim so that you don't remit that VAT? When it comes to refunds, simply because our KRA and refunds do not sit in the same sentence, maybe that would be a bit difficult.
Do you know that the entire saga of Goldenberg was based on this very same concept of refund? yes, an attempt to try and help Kenya expand its export.
Yeah.
And somebody looked and said, oh, export. Oh, refund. Okay. Gold. Okay.
What is it that, it's just identifying need. And that's why I also say that Kamlesh Patni needs to be studied. Forget the whole thing of,
Forget the
he was
drama.
sit down and actually study this man. Because I watched him when he was giving his testimony at the Goldenberg inquiry publicly. And he sat down, he thought, what does Kenya need right now? Kenya needs Forex. It's in short supply in this country. Foreign exchange is a problem because our exports are low, so we need to expand. So what is it that is happening? Other countries in the region have gold and they'd like to export. Now, the issue of the source of this gold is a problem in the export market. However, if it is certified that it has come from Kenya, Kenya is not in the black books of very many countries. So, devise the scheme, and then this 27-year-old man found his way and sat with the head of intelligence. The much feared James Kanyotu found his way to James Kanyotu, sat down and convinced Kanyotu that, you know what, this is something that we can take to Mzee. And Kanyotu sat down and thought, this is brilliant. Let's go to Mzee. They go to Mzee at Kabarak Gardens. And Mzee listens and is like, wow. So this can solve our problems. Fine. Facilitate. The guts of some young man.
Eric, I am actually not convinced that this entire scheme was actually just Patni's. I know he was a front. Patni comes from a family of goldsmiths
Yep.
in Mombasa. All right? Sonara, as they're called, Swahili. He may have been brilliant. But for this thing to work, you describe it really well. It requires someone who has an intimate knowledge of the product. And that person has to probably be somebody who works in that ministry.
Yep.
Knows the figures, knows what. And you combine it with somebody who probably works for the central bank, who understands these needs and now understands the details of what needs doing. Because remember, this fraud had to do with just shuffling paper.
It is all that. It's all about that.
Shuffling paper, making sure this paper is properly. These are not the days of internet.
No.
It's properly documented, properly stamped, because those are things that ensure that it's considered valid. To get through this entire process, there were people who worked in government, because government people are the ones who understand procedure. They know you do this and do this, it'll pass. And remember, that paperwork would go as far as Switzerland, and they would look at it. These are people who are known for probity. It would pass,
It
and
would
it
pass.
kept passing and passing and passing.
Bring it back to, there was a properly hatched scheme.
Thank you.
Everybody else is, you're told, I understand the trade. I understand what you need. You need to give me this kind of paper. And then I have the word from the top. That from the very beginning, the fact that he's able to convince the head of state that this is something we can do as a government. So it becomes a government project. That's it. Go to Central Bank and you tell them, no,
Facilitate.
Yep.
you need to give us this paper.
Whoever needs to do what they need to do to get it done.
If someone
does
starts
it.
questioning and they appear like they are onto what you're doing, give them something. Hii mambo ni kuongea.
Or send them packing.
Yeah. One or the other. And both happened.
No, both actually did happen.
Yeah. So it's big things that have really happened. So as we talk about how government and facilitation of things happens, a court has halted a move to make it expensive to query tenders. Now, the Treasury, the National Treasury, had passed some regulations, and regulations must always be approved by the National Assembly. These regulations are called the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Regulations 2020. These go with the law, the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act. So the Finance Ministry had come up with the regulations on how they are going to manage this particular act. Among the provisions of these new regulations was that if you have lost a tender, you want to question a tender that has gone through the process and has been awarded to somebody, and you feel that this was awarded irregularly, and you want to question that, you need to deposit something. And this is the equivalent of how much? 15% of the value of that tender. You deposit it to show that you're really serious, that you're questioning this tender and not just slowing down government procurement process.
This bill passed, didn't it?
It went through Parliament. It went through the Committee on Delegated Legislation. It went through the whole House. The whole House voted for it, and they said, well, this is going to ensure a better and smoother running of operations in government. Now, the Roads and Civil Engineering Contractors Association and the Energy Sector Contractors went to court and challenged these provisions, and they said, come on. Now, you're really saying that we cannot question anything. I see two sides to the same coin, City. One is, for a fact, we have a lot of issues that go to tribunal because of procurement.
We do.
You lose a tender, you want to slow it down, you say, kama sipati hakuna mtu atapata. So you go and challenge it.
Yes, you do.
Slow it down. Keep it there forever. And what are you bringing? Some frivolous allegation, which must be heard. It must go through the process. You basically are slowing down the procurement process. I guess that is what the mandarins of the National Treasury and the other government agencies were looking at and seeing, you know what, in order to unlock this, let us ensure that the person who wants to come and challenge any given tender is serious by them coming to deposit that money. So you know very well that if you're challenging this frivolously, you're also just putting in your money to sit there.
And the likelihood of you putting your money, if you're frivolous, will not arise.
Yeah,
you will
will
not
be
do
low.
that.
Yeah.
Yes.
However, on the other hand, this also locks out people who may genuinely want to question a tender.
So where does the role of the Public Procurement Oversight Authority come in here?
That's why it comes in. Because the oversight authority and the oversight board, that's why you go to question.
Yes.
So if you're raising issues with a certain tender that has been given out and the process or such, you take it, it goes to the board, it goes to a tribunal, and then the tribunal is what will listen to your issues.
You know, this one is a double-edged sword.
It is. It can do so much with this
It
one.
is, because
Yeah.
there is validity in the argument that you really don't want the nuisance factor to keep coming into a serious matter such as this one. But at the same time, it could be seen as a bulwark. These are people who are deliberately ensuring that unless your pockets are deep,
Yep.
you are not going to kick a fuss,
Yep.
even if there's a fuss to be kicked. But, as with most things, it's in court, is it not?
It's
Gone to court, court has said, halt these things. Halt.
Stop.
Let's wait and see what the courts will decide.
Yeah, what comes out
But
of
these
this.
courts of ours have become very robust, have they not?
Oh.
yeah.
Or is it our reporting that has become robust?
Well, I think that
Both.
it's both. Because things go through the system really quickly now.
Both
and
have become
decisions are
robust.
made that would actually either topple things, halt things, important decisions that you think ordinarily would sail through. Suddenly somebody says, hold on, stop this.
But it's also something to that is raising serious discussion. I remember, I think it was covered in the Standard last week, was it? On how all these things end up in court. So government is basically just shackled by the courts. You don't feel like you got a fair hearing, or you don't feel like you like what has been decided, go to court. And the court says, halt it. So it's like the government has to move one step, wait for the courts to decide, move to the next step.
But
Or
you
never
see,
move.
that's now the robustness, because it then ensures that if you're going to, should we say, go through a process, man, you'd better do due diligence.
Follow procedure.
Yes. Remember, Eric, you were mentioning earlier on the day something that I read and said, now this really is interesting. Huge blow after firm ordered to surrender 5 billion city land.
An interesting one. Let's take this quick break and then we come back and look at. So when the courts issue directives, they issue directives for, on behalf of, or in favor of government, and sometimes not in favor of government.
Yes.
We have both cases today.
Yes, we do.
13 minutes to 7 o'clock. It's a situation room. Kenya's biggest conversation.
You are tuned in to Nairobi's #1 soul station, Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
say 5 billion or 50 acres or both?
I'm talking about the value of the land, and it is at 5 billion. The acreage, I think, is 53, but let's round it off to 50.
Okay.
Wow.
Yes, and it's land that belongs to the meteorological department. Yes. This happened during the time. There's a gentleman who was in charge of land. The commissioner was called Bashanja. And, there's a deja vu to it, in the sense that the companies that had this land allocated to them were actually set up and formed just prior to the allocation. And what was of interest is that the directors of these companies were like a mirror image of each other.
Companies, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So these people didn't leave breadcrumbs; they left loaves. Anyone who cared to look
They'll
would
find
just
it.
look.
Clearly see.
Yes.
All you needed to do was look, open your eyes.
It's taken, it's taken.
Who are these directors?
It's the companies that they mentioned.
Yeah.
Yes. Let me just mention Beacon Towers Limited, Hillbrow Properties Limited, Brentwood Traders Limited, Varoom Industrial Credit Limited, and Pamba Properties. 53.4 acres.
Hey.
Wow.
This is an interesting one. So the case was taken to court by the EACC, yeah?
Yes, they did.
And they were saying that the illegal transfer involved collusion by top Ministry of Lands officials, despite the fact that the facility was used by the Meteorological Department to relay vital information to sea-going vessels and weather patterns to aircraft. Wait, this land is here near Panari in Nairobi.
Things are happening
just
here.
behind
Machakos,
Panari.
Mombasa Road.
And this station was using to give information to sea-going vessels.
Just over here.
Just over here, 500 and something kilometers away. Anyway, and air...
No. It's an amalgam of things.
Of course.
Yes.
It's what
an
the
amalgam
Met, it's
of
what the
things.
Met does.
That's what they're supposed to do, because the information they have is valid for sea-going vessels. And we're not referring to Nairobi Dam.
A bit larger body
yes,
of
or
water.
at the river. No. That's not the reference.
It's maritime, Uko, in the Indian Ocean.
Yes.
Okay. And
You know what is of interest also?
Yeah.
Those who had this land allocated to them said that it was vacant. The judge begged to disagree completely. Said, vacant. There was a generator. There was equipment that the Met people used. There was housing. Said, even if this land was to be transferred, there is normally procedure. You document it.
yeah,
You advertise. There's a whole procedure. None
You
of
must
these.
follow.
none of that was followed.
Yes. So
And imagine.
even on a technicality, that's it.
And that this case, as straightforward as it sounds, took 10 years
Yes.
to conclude. 10 years.
The case we're talking about earlier of a gentleman who kept greasing the palms, allegedly greasing the palms of
police
police
locally.
and so forth until they argue that his money ran out. Okay? I think would apply here as well. Because for something to be this delayed over
And over.
and over and over, when it is clear that one of the things about the gentleman that I referred to earlier on, it wasn't just a question of the allocation of land during his tenure. He himself was a guest of the state because in a saga, this one was in the courts, people were brought in, his wife was involved. Some gentleman lost his life over an issue of land. He was a man who dealt in land. He was a property agent. He was a property dealer. And something went sour. And this gentleman was actually not just taken to court, was jailed as a result of this. Yes.
Right.
So, unfortunately, or should I say fortunately for the country, you have a situation where justice has been served at last.
It has.
A good thing.
That is a very good thing.
A good thing. It's a financial standard today, the pull-out and the standard. And today it's focusing on errors that turned Kenya into retailers' graveyard. The case of supermarkets, the curse of supermarkets. First it was Uchumi, then Nakumat. Now Tusky seems to be going down
Is
a
it
well-trodden
really a
path
curse?
for local supermarket chains. We'll look at what is ailing this industry. Is it really a curse? What is it? How would you describe it? If you look at those many supermarkets actually, even those that have come from other parts of the world, they set up base here, they're successful in their own countries, they come to Kenya and something just does not click.
The foreign companies that come here to set up, I would argue that the competition in the Kenyan market and the details of the Kenyan market and how it functions catches up with them. Because you come in believing that there's money, and indeed there is, but Kenya is Kenya. Now, if you look at each of these companies that you've mentioned, start with Nakumat, now we've got Tuskies, keep thinking through. Think of Uchumi. It isn't as though the businesses were not viable. It is because those who owned these businesses did something that guaranteed the businesses would not be viable. Because for it not to be viable is like saying that there were no more people who wanted to visit these establishments, didn't want to do business with them. That is not true. For new business to come up in the same field, it means someone has studied it and understood there's a market. There's something.
It's viable.
Yes.
Right.
Because all these smaller supermarkets, how often do you hear of them going under? They seem to just somehow survive.
Because those ones are just small retail shops. They are not supermarkets.
Exactly, Eric. But the principle is
They
the
are
same.
mom and pops.
They are mom and pops, yes, and dad and moms and pops and aunties. But the truth of the matter is this. They serve the same purpose, just a smaller clientele.
I think the curse comes into this. When you want to be a big retailer in this country, big means that, one, you occupy a large space, and therefore this is a higher cost in terms of rent. Secondly, you have to expand because it's a small margin business. So for you to make enough cash for you have to expand. Now, as you expand, you're going into markets where you are hoping that this store will bring in the same amount of money as the next store that you open, or you have the same footfall, you'll have the same kind of shopper demographic. And then you realize that the shopper demographic is not the same. So as you expand, there are some stores of yours that are basically just holding and draining you cash because you have to pay the staff, you have to pay for that premise, and you're holding on to the supplier's money because suppliers have given you money.
Pause for a second and ask yourself.
Yes.
What you're saying is true. Now, which businessman would enter such murky waters without understanding what waters they're entering into?
Because, I mean, if you want to look at most recent
Which one?
entrants,
I mean, unless these aren't businessmen, because surely you expand because it is clear to you that that expansion is something that is necessary. Look at the model, the business model that, say, Nakumat had.
Yep.
All right? Nakumat didn't really own anything.
it was a rental state.
They understood retailing and took it to its nth.
Yeah.
Okay?
And then
Basically,
they
we
started,
pay
and
you
then
when-
they
even-
started
yes, we
We
expanding.
pay you
Even
when
con-
we sell, which is what they
precisely.
did. Yeah.
Yes.
And
Precisely.
then they started expanding. And that is when rubber meets road. Look at Tuskies. Tuskies was also doing well.
Eric,
And then they started expanding.
Eric, there's something else that happens beyond the expansion. That is what I am actually bringing
Look at
in.
Uchumi.
Oh, no.
And
no, no,
then
no,
they
no, no.
started expanding.
Uchumi is different. That one was
Same
simply
issue.
ground to the... Oh, no.
Yeah,
Uchumi
it's quick to jump into
Uchumi
that.
came in. No, Eric. Uchumi existed when nobody else existed.
Exactly.
Uchumi was the oldest.
Nobody existed.
Yes.
There was literally no competition.
And what kind of stores did you see in Uchumi? Uchumi was small stores in various parts. The biggest one was at
By the way, Eric,
town.
But when Uchumi came into being, those stores were big. It's only when
Big.
Nakumat came in and started opening go-downs,
Bigger,
calling them
yes,
supermarkets,
yes.
that they seemed small. But Uchumi was big.
In those days, Uchumi appeared big.
Actually, Eric, it was big.
It was the only thing that existed.
It was big. In fact, the word supermarket blew your mind. It was big.
Yeah.
You couldn't imagine there were so many things in just one space.
Because you're comparing it to the next one, which is a kiosk.
Not just a kiosk, a
Where you
shop,
cannot
a
go.
shop which has 4 stalls.
A hole in the window.
Yes, so
no,
you know.
it's actually a booth in the window. You cannot walk next to the product and pick the product. You ask the shopkeeper, nipatie sukari.
Or rather, a hole in the
Yes.
wall.
And now here is a supermarket where you're going and picking your own sukari.
Not only sukari, you even have options of sukari. So really confusing before you get used to it. No, Eric, it goes back to that story of management and what it is. Have you heard, for instance, of owners of Nakumat going bankrupt or going broke?
No.
I haven't.
No.
Have you heard of the people who are behind Uchumi going bust? First of all, look at the model of Uchumi. Uchumi was buying land, not their business, they've gone into property, building, development. They are supposed to be retailers.
I refuse to believe that the environment is poisoned because of the fact that you still have entrance into the market,
Yes.
even when people are falling off the grid.
And they're
If
queuing.
they're queuing, they're lining up to come in. With foreign entrants who are saying, okay, well, tick the boxes for me, allow me to come into this market. If the environment had been poisoned, you wouldn't have them wanting.
They wouldn't touch it.
They wouldn't. And they would be able to see this. Because a lot of these guys, before they come in, they do their market research.
Of course.
They do. And they say, okay,
And over a
is
period
this a
of
market that
time.
we can get into? And
Over a long period
It's not
of
that
time.
when you see a building being erected that they decided last week they're going to come into Kenya. They've done this due diligence for years
Yep.
and said, okay, fine, we want to come in here.
So what goes wrong?
The management goes
I
wrong.
think
So the same
management
managers who have
I
done their
think
due
there's a
diligence
certain- there's a
are the
certain-
same ones
the
who go wrong.
management,
No, I think
Actually,
that
Eric, yes. To answer your question, the answer is, but do you want to say something?
because the retail market, and the retail market here is quite robust, and it is very easy for people who then invest in business to get very excited when they see that the first spot that they've opened is actually doing extremely well.
Yeah.
And I think there's an element of commercial and of rather enterprise excitement that happens for a lot of commercial entities and says, all right, well, since we're doing so well in spot 1, let's open 2, 3, 4. And that is when the problem comes in.
Which is me, that's why I'm putting it. Curse is the word expansion.
No.
The
Expanding
moment
too quickly?
the moment
I think has
I
to
would
do
moment
with-
a
actually,
retailer starts
at other
expanding,
look
give
at-
them time.
Let me give you another example of one retail, like Chanara, for example. They had 3 supermarkets around the city of Nairobi for the longest time. They didn't even go into. Where are they now? Holding steady.
Eric,
Stay where you are and
No,
you'll survive.
No.
Start doing
I want
expanding
to
your
question the expansion and what it is that the idea behind the expansion, what they wanted to do. Hence my question.
Yeah.
Those who own these businesses, have you heard them going bust? Have you heard them going bankrupt? It's the businesses that have gone.
Yeah,
bust.
because those
It's
two are
not the
different.
owners.
Because those two are different. Business and owner is different.
Therein lies the chink. In
Comes
this particular
to the top of the hour. It's 7 o'clock. Shortly, we'll be looking at other conversations. What's happening in Syokimau and what's happening in Machakos County, especially when it comes to environmental management. Good morning. It's 7 o'clock.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Traffic.
Okay, let's see if things have changed. Actually, a very good morning today. Not much traffic in most of the normal trouble spots. Let's look at Kangunda Road. That's flowing very well this morning. Not many in terms of vehicles on the road today. Mombasa Road at Green Park Estate, Athi River towards Nairobi, moving along very smoothly as you head into the CBD. On Thika Road, coming into the city centre as well, that's looking very good. Right at the Pangani underpass, a little bit of traffic, but then as you get to the Globe Cinema roundabout, you'll be fine getting into the CBD. Coming out of Westlands, past the 87 and then onto the Red Hill bypass, traffic is moving very well. Okay, we will take a look at what's happening in other parts of the country, but for now looks really good in the NMA. Don't forget, you can let us know what it looks like in your neck of the woods. Spice FM KE. That's how you can reach us on Twitter. Let's see if we keep it moving better than we did yesterday, this Tuesday morning.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Nduh Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
It's also Kenya's
This
biggest
is the
conversation.
Situation
And
Room.
this and
The
every
only
morning,
way-
6 a.m. to 10 a.m., we reflect on the conversations that are happening in the country, in the region, and in the world. Broadcasting on Spice FM 94.4 in Nairobi. We are in Mombasa, 102.5 in Kisumu, 87.9 in Mombasa, 96.0 in Nakuru, Eldoret, 96.7, Nyeri, 90.9, Malindi, 97.7. This morning as well, from now until 9 o'clock, we are also live on KTN Home, and we are live worldwide on www.spicefm.co.ke. So, CT Muga, as we start this conversation, what is today's proverb?
Today's proverb is actually, well, it's almost as simple as yesterday's proverb.
So,
The eye never forgets what the heart has seen.
the eye never forgets what the heart has seen. Not the other way around?
What I would suggest, Eric, is that...
Is I come up with one proverb?
No. Just say that, can we edit your proverb to... Yes, Eric, you can edit the proverb. And actually isn't mine, an African proverb. But I know it doesn't make sense, but think about it. What does the heart do? The heart feels, the heart experiences.
Yeah.
The heart is like the epicenter of emotions as far as people are concerned. And I'm not talking about the physical pump that is actually the heart, but the heart and all that it encompasses.
Yeah.
Yes. When an experience touches your heart, yeah, it goes beyond
It
what...
lingers.
It goes... Thank you. I will say no more on that lovely word, all-encompassing.
Okay. So let's have a conversation now this hour where we want to go to Syokimau, and there's something that has been happening in Syokimau. There was a complaint by residents there, and then there was action by the government, the county government of Machakos. What's the story there? Nduh?
All right. So if we look at what has been happening in Syokimau for a couple of months now, well, actually going into years, there is a metal smelting company that has been letting off quite some in terms of pollution in the area. And residents, you know, in close proximity to this have been complaining for quite some time in terms of the pungent odor that it lets out, in terms of then respiratory issues that they face after this. And it has been taken to NEMA as the body to sort out issues of pollution and environment and things like this, but nothing has really been done. There was a tug and, push and pull back and forth between the residents and NEMA. Come and do something about this, come and make the management of this particular company, which is Enmore Steel Millers, said really that they did everything that they needed to do, and they were within their rights or within the purview of themselves as an entity with the necessary,
That followed the law.
they had followed the law with the necessary regulations from NEMA. So there was a push and pull back and forth, but that never really happened until now. The agitation just became, too much. Residents basically could not breathe in their homes.
Yep.
People became sick. And one of the gentlemen whose stories then did come out about his children having been affected, and one of his children, unfortunately, having passed. However, he was very clear that he could not necessarily link the passing of this child to the pollution, but it was heavily suspected, and that another child then is now ill because of this. So quite a number have been complaining. We also know that the government of Machakos shut down operations at the millers sometime. But it's interesting to note, and I think that as we even speak about this, that a day after the shutdown that I saw with my own eyes, the company was still in operation. Okay. And then having residents complain a little bit more about this. So it's an environment issue, it's a pollution issue, it's a rights issue, and if proven, it could be a death issue here, where somebody is dealing with the loss of a child because of these. So this is one thing that we're looking at today.
So the issue has been highlighted in the media, and the residents led by the gentleman that we're going to be speaking to shortly, Nazio Savio Hakada, have come out to the public and said this is what's happening in our area. And when it was highlighted in the public domain, immediately after that we saw the government of Machakos County, the governor, Dr. Alfred Mutua, announcing that he has ordered the closure of this steel millers, and ordered that an inspection be conducted and meetings be held with the management of the steel millers, with the residents associations as well, to find out what's happening. And then last week, the governor released a statement saying after ordering the closure on the 14th of May, he was now ordering the partial reopening, provisional reopening on the 30th of July. And he said this provisional reopening is after meetings have been held between my senior government officers and the management of the steel millers. We want to see whether this provisional reopening is to practically test whether the measures that they've put in place are effective in combating the pollution, because some of the issues can only be ascertained when the plant is operational.
But the question I would ask is, when this plant was being set up, we do have a government body that's supposed to ensure that these environmental issues are more or less settled even before the company starts operating. Where do they come in?
The National Environment Management Authority?
Yes.
And the others, of course, they give you license, and of course, they are also mandated to conduct regular inspections of the facility. And
so how do we arrive at this point?
When residents are raising the issues, also they reach out to them. So let's first of all speak to Nazir Savio Hakada to give us his experience. Good morning, Nazir.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you very much for speaking to us. Welcome to the Situation Room.
I'd like to thank you for wanting to air our grievances and what we are going through.
Now, Nazir, you've heard the question that CT Muga has asked. I mean, we are talking about residents raising concern about this specific factory and reaching out to the relevant authorities. Which authorities are these that you have reached out to?
Well, we first, in the beginning, I mean, we've been here for several years, and the latest estates, I could say 10 years, a few 15 years back, 12 years back, we've actually occupied estates within a locality of this factory. We're talking about just 50 meters away, having effective 50 meters away from an estate. We're looking at 5-star, we're looking at Sawada, we're looking at Bustani, and there are a few others around. Looking at almost 1,000 residents around, and within, if you calculate the whole of Syokimau Residents Association, we're looking at almost 5,000 residents. This is a 5,000 residents area. This factory came in around 2016, not just four years ago, 3.5 to 4 years ago. And what is surprising is that we reached out to NEMA when we could not breathe. We had issues with our children could not breathe, chest-related problems. As I've said this previously, okay, we don't know whether this could be linked, but the doctors actually has told us just verbally, generally, that you have a problem that it could be linked. But, you have to go scientifically and do your investigation in both companies that would able to look what is your pollution rate. Is this the issue? Code Africa has had sensors that were fitted in Bustani, in Sawada, and they did research and found out that the pollution rate or some pH rate, scientifically we don't understand this as laymen, but they clearly said it was beyond the approved rate. BBC had this thing, and they worked very close with Code Africa and found out that, yes, indeed there is a certain amount of pollution that is not acceptable from this factory against residents, especially it being a smelting steel company. From there, NEMA, we approached NEMA. We sent all the relevant letters. It was just silent. Yes. We had a meeting with Enmore and the NEMA authorities. They were asked for some almost 17 to 18 clearance certificates and licenses that were needed, disposal of smoke, you name it. There were several. Change of user, because how did they come into this premises? This was a residential agricultural land one time. Did they ever apply for these licenses? Was there an advert? Were the residents made a party to this plant before it was opened? Because I believe residents of a certain area must be. There are certain regulations that allows for such a plant to coexist where there is residential.
During the environmental impact assessment,
Yes, exactly. The exact words you've used. Nothing. I mean, they had, in the interview, they gave us some 4 or 5 names that they only spoke to 4 or 5 people who filled some forms. We took those forms, we investigated. 3 people don't even stay in Syokimau. 1 sells food outside, maybe the factory somewhere there. And 1 was approached at Gateway Mall just to fill a form. So we're wondering what kind of assessment did they do? Who did they speak to? Which was the body they spoke to? We have Syokimau Residents Association, an association that stands for the entire community. No one was approached. None of the chairman, not the treasurer, not the secretary, no one. We've gone to NEMA. NEMA has been telling us, giving us all kinds of reasons, this or the other. We ended up going to the tribunal. The tribunal, it's been dates after dates after dates. Okay, let's get that paper in order. Let's get that paper in order. I ask a question today as a resident. As a resident, where my children are affected, our children within the estates are at risk. The entire Syokimau Residents Association kids, we have over 10,000 children here. Okay? I ask the governor, I ask NEMA, I ask the courts, I ask everybody who is involved in this case and who are in authority to help us.
Nazir, I'd be interested to know, if I can ask you, Nazir. I mean, you spoke to quite a number of people. I'd be interested to know what the initial response was to the questions that you were then asking. Because, I mean, you've asked so many things here. I mean, who gave these approvals? Who then allowed them to come in and begin this work in an area that was supposed to be residential? Then who then was responsible? What was the initial response that you were given?
For me, I will hold two people responsible. Our county, this is our governor. He should look into this. The buck stops at the governor. I'm sorry. Yes, the buck stops at him. He's our leader. We appointed him. The buck stops at him. He cannot sit in his comfort seat and expect that, yes, I will do what I want to do. You close down a factory. We are so happy with you. We were even going to approach him and sit down and tell him, okay, now let's find out where we went wrong or what is the problem. Did we go wrong? Did the factory go wrong? Where is the problem? Before even anything can be done, before he can even meet with the resident, after 2-3 days, the factory is opened. NEMA, zero. It's been going on. Recently, when we approached NEMA through one of our members, we said there was a van they have for air pollution, something, calculating this thing. There's a van they have. Clearly, they told one of our residents that, the van is not available, it's broken down, something like that, and, we don't really have all the mechanisms to do this. Then if you are NEMA, you are an authority, you are a body, and you don't have the mechanism. Then after a while, they posted something on the tweet saying they are now within Syokimau, and they are doing some quality check. Okay, we'll see. We'll look at it.
Have you organized yourself, Nazir, as the residents and the other people who are affected, who are taking up this issue? Have you organized yourself and formally, let's say, come together as a group, engage the services of experts formally? Like you say, you've got the services of experts on environment, on air pollution that you have engaged, on legal issues that you've engaged, environmental lawyers, who then would advise you as well in this journey of seeking answers?
We have got a couple of lawyers dealing with the matter already. It is in the tribal at the moment. And again, as we say, it's delay after delay. It's next week. Now we've taken it towards the end of August, while the factory is still operating. So we had ransom until end of August. To hell with us what the way it's being put. Okay? All these authority guys don't stay within where we stay, so they don't care how long it takes. We have engaged our lawyers. We have engaged in the past Code Africa. We have engaged TV channels and radio stations that have actually aired our grievances. Okay. So we already have engaged professionals who have. We've had TV channels people, radio guys who have actually come here and said, "Is that the smell? We cannot even breathe." They themselves cannot breathe at times during the day. They feel that
when they're coming there.
You smell there.
When this matter was highlighted recently again in the media, we saw the reaction and action from the government of Machakos, and the governor ordered the partial closure or the temporary closure of this factory, set up a team and said, I've set up a team to come and investigate this. And then when he released a statement and said he's directing the provisional reopening of the factory, he also said, and we have the governor on the line, we'll be speaking to him shortly, he said, I announced a meeting of the Syokimau representatives, maximum of 7 people, to meet the officers from the county government, 4 people, and factory officers, 4 people, at the Mavoko County offices this Saturday, the 8th of August, to review the status of the pollution and other associated matters. Have you been contacted? Have you formed yourselves? I mean, have you sat down as the Residents Association to come up with the team of 7 that's going to represent you in this meeting?
Brother, let me tell you one thing about SRA, Syokimau Residents Association. We are a very serious team. We have our people ready even now if you ask us.
Okay.
We're always ready. Okay. we don't need to pick who's going to say what, because our team has always been ready. We have an environmental team within Syokimau Residents Association. These are guys who are versed with certain parts of the law and what is required and what is not required. So we are not a group of people who just woke up from the corner of a house and said, we are now a team ready
so
to
you're ready,
engage. And
you're
yet we
prepared
don't know
for this
anything.
meeting that's been called on
We are
Saturday.
ready. But so far, from what I know, is I have not heard anything. I've been keeping in touch with our John Mutinda, who is also very senior in the our environmental lead. Last when I spoke to him, he told me he has not yet received anything at the moment. He was waiting. We're just waiting. So they allow us to do this. The other problem we are facing is we must have this within a friendly environment. The last time we went when the factory was being shut, a couple of us were beaten up. We were beaten. We had to go and file a case at Mololongo police station. We have OB numbers filing against the.
Can I
we were
ask you,
beaten up,
Nazir?
yes.
So as this is progressing, so if you had a confrontation, now whom were you then? Because if you talk about assault, who were you then assaulted by at this point?
The factory workers actually came looking for us.
Okay. Let's bring in the Governor of Machakos County, Dr. Alfred Mutua, who's also joining us on the line. Good morning, Governor.
Good morning. Habari ya asubuhi.
Salama kabisa. Thank you very much for speaking to us, Governor Mutua. You've heard what Nazir said, and you, of course, you have been following this matter of the Enmore steel mills. From the initial reports that you received, and which made you to direct the partial closure of this factory, what is your reading of the situation?
Let me first say I'm quite sorry what Nazir and the residents have actually gone through. It's terrible. People shouldn't have to go through such pollution and such agony and such bureaucracy because it is their right to have a good life in a good environment. So I'm very, very sorry about that. I want to admit, first of all, that I was not aware of this issue at all. You know, as a governor, there's so many issues. I was not aware of this issue. But one day I was driving to Nairobi from Machakos, and there was this pungent smell as I drove up past Mlolongo, around that area. And I thought for an instant that maybe we'd had a spillage of maybe a toxic waste from a lorry coming from Mombasa or something. So I called my Minister for Environment, and I told her to investigate where that smell was coming from and to contact NEMA and others, whether they look at NTSA, whether there's any poisonous stuff around. And she wrote to me a few days later, and explained that it was a factory called Enmore etc. With a problem. Unfortunately, due to our working hours, whereby we don't go to work now every single day because of COVID, I did not receive the letter until 5 days later. The letter was delivered, but I saw it about 5 days later on my desk. And by the time I saw the letter, that's when the issue was already in the media. And I called a meeting and I said, what is going on here? And so I sent an inspection team to look at the factory. And the report that came back to me is that this factory was not only contravening pollution laws, it was contravening COVID-19 regulations. It was contravening all other regulations. And I asked my team, how come it's been operating all this time? Does it have to wait until it's in the media? Does it have to wait until I smell the spillage for people to act? So that is when we closed it down. Okay. And I have to admit that since it closed down, I have received numerous phone calls from everywhere in this country. From colleagues, from senior government officials, from whoever, trying to urge me to open. I know there's a delegation from the national government was sent to see the factory, to come and see me, to try and get it open, and I refused. I said no. I said, the health of people is more important. Just like what I said in my statement when I closed down the factory, that our health is more important than money.
So those who are applying pressure from those other quarters, what is their justification for pushing for the reopening of the factory?
Oh, well, this is a local guy. This is the rest of the guys are not really local. This is an African, the rest are Indians who own these mills. This is one of ours. This is, the normal stories, trying to say that he's being harassed because there's a conspiracy against him by other steel millers. This is a money issue. But I refused to meet them. I refused to meet all these delegations, and I said, no, I operate above board. I don't want to meet anybody. So let my team do their work. And as we had promised, we'd go back. We had given them time. Because also, as the governor of Machakos, I have to protect the residents, but also I have to protect investors.
Sure.
I have to protect businesses that set up, because these businesses provide jobs, and also it's people's rights. People have capital investment of billions of shillings. So you don't just shut people down without giving them a fair opportunity to actually explain themselves.
To be heard as well, yes.
And to be heard, and also an opportunity to continue operating. Because if you look at this is a multi-billion operation. This is not a few 100 million shillings. This is probably a 2 to 3 billion shilling investment that has been put there. And somebody's life and business is in it. About so many hundreds of people are depending on it in employment. So it's a balancing act. As a leader, I have to balance these things.
Indeed. I want us to take a quick break, Dr. We want to take a quick break here and have a look at the weather and traffic, and then we come back and continue this conversation. We want to understand the steps that your government took once you ordered the closure, the steps that that your officers also took in reaching out to the complainants, who are the residents around there, and also to understand the next steps that we expect to see being taken from both sides. We still have Nazio on the line, and we're speaking to Dr. Alfred Mutua, the governor of Machakos County. It's about the closure and partial reopening of a steel mill that has made the residents of this particular area in Syokimau complain that there's a lot of pollution, air pollution in the area, and many of the residents are complaining that their health has been impacted. Keep it right here. This is a Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation, broadcasting on Spice FM, broadcasting worldwide on www.spicefm.co.ke, and also broadcasting on KTN Home. It's now 24 minutes after 7.
...24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
As the world changes, so do we. We adapt to our situations to bring out the best in us. This is why the Standard Group and Oxford University Press East Africa have partnered to bring you Tutor Summer Online. For just 10 shillings, you have unlimited access to the reputable source of revision materials conveniently. All you have to do is log into tutorsoma.standardmedia.co.ke and make the most of the time for all students, including candidates for both primary and secondary schools. So, as we stay home, we keep dreams of future successes alive while making homeschooling an achievable reality together, effectively. Tutor Summer Online. Log in to success. A partnership between the Standard Group and the Oxford University Press East Africa.
24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
When it comes to bridging the information gap to help strengthen the agricultural sector in our country, you can always rely on Farm Kenya to be the glue holding everything together. And now, courtesy of the partnership with Farmster, things couldn't be better. Introducing Farm Kenya platform, and it goes like this. Our SMS service will help farmers upload and publish their products without smartphones, while the Farm Kenya app will allow buyers locate, purchase from, and engage the farmers directly. So if you're a farmer, send a free SMS to 40446 and connect with buyers free for life. That's 40.
There will be partly cloudy conditions at 13. We'll see highs of 23 today and coming down to lows of 12. In Nakuru at 12 degrees is partly cloudy until afternoon, where they'll see highs of 22 with a bit of a sprinkle. In Njeri, partly cloudy conditions throughout the day, highs of 22 and lows of 13. It's patches of fog in Eldoret at 12, opening up in thunderstorms later with highs of 18 and lows of 11. 19 degrees and partly cloudy in Kisumu, going to highs of 25 and lows of 18. It'll be a wet afternoon in Kakamega, currently at 16 degrees, going to highs of 23 and coming down to lows of 15. It's mostly sunny in Malindi at 24. That'll change later though, with highs of 28 and lows of 23. We'll see showers later on. It stopped raining in Mombasa currently, 23 degrees, highs of 28 and lows of 22. We'll take a step out of Kenya into Kampala, where at 19 degrees it's mostly cloudy, going into an afternoon of rainy conditions, highs of 25 and lows of 18. Clear skies in Dar es Salaam at 21 degrees, going to a warm high of 30 and lows of 20. It's 6 degrees in Joburg. Clear conditions, however, sunny conditions will last the whole day with highs of 21 and lows of 5. And finally, for now in Lagos, clear skies at 24 degrees, highs of 29 and lows of 22.
87.9 Spice FM, Mombasa.
All right, still the issue of traffic this morning and people getting into matatus where it's full. You can be the one who doesn't get in, or even better, the one who gets off if it's more packed than it should be. Look at traffic on Thika Road from Utali to Muthaiga. It's actually quite packed, so you need some patience getting out of there. Getting to the Pangani underpass, a little bit of traffic there as well as you head into the CBD. There's been a nasty accident at Allsops heading towards Thika, so that's outbound on Thika Road. So if you're going in that direction, please be careful. Approach with caution. This is just towards Roasters, waiting for police to come and sort that out. Coming out of Mombasa Road, getting towards the Cabanas is a bit of a hold up coming out of the airport turnoff. So you need to be careful as you come into that, because it's going to take you a little while to get out. Some patience is necessary, I'd say. Coming out of Westlands into the CBD and off of Ngong Road as well as Langata Road, not too bad this morning. Uhuru Highway, however, is jam-packed from the Nyayo Stadium roundabout all the way through to Westlands. Peppered with patience is what you need today. Spice of MKE, not to forget. You can get in touch with us on Twitter. Let us know what you see. Give somebody an option, or at least warn someone of what's ahead.
Spice and everything nice, everything nice. Spice FM.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation, broadcasting on Spice FM this morning, and KTN Home. In the room is Eric Latiff, Nduh Okoh, and CT Muga. On the line is Nazir Savio Hakada. He is a member of the Syokimau Residents Association. He is one of those residents who have been affected by the operating steel mill called Enmore that has been operating in his area, in his neighborhood for a number of years now. They've raised concern about this. They say that there is air pollution that is emanating from this particular factory, and there's a pungent smell. And this has been confirmed by the governor of Machakos County, Dr. Mutua, who himself says at one point he was driving down the road and he could smell this, and he raised question with his officers, and also the matter has been discussed in the public domain. So this is what we do on this show. We reflect conversations that are happening in our community, and we seek answers from those that have got answers. Nazir has said that they raised this issue with the National Environment Management Authority. They've raised the issue with other relevant authorities, and they've gotten no satisfactory answer. The governor of Machakos County, once this matter came to his attention as well from media and from his own experience, raised an issue about this, and he directed that the factory be closed for a while, as he's assigned a team to go and review the operations of this particular factory. And Governor Alfred Mutua, you're saying during that time you received a lot of, shall we say, pressure from several other quarters saying this is a Kenyan company. You need to think about the kind of investment that's been put in here. Be that as it may, I mean, Governor, from where you sit, you're dealing with two citizens of Machakos County. One is a corporate citizen, and the other one is a citizen's body of human beings who are saying that they are affected. The questions that emerge now from here is, you set up a team and you told this team, go and investigate what's happening at Endmore. What did they bring to you?
No, they went and looked, and the main idea was the company said, according to my officers, that they are going to take corrective measures, and we should give them a chance.
What exactly were they going to correct, Governor?
No, you see, the issue is, why is there pollution? Because we have other factories, steel factories in Machakos. This is not the only one. And there are measures that have been taken according to international standards, the European Union standards, American standards, Australian standards, whereby there are machines you hook up such that the pollution that comes out is basically oxygen, whereby you're able to clean the air, you're able to clean the chemicals, and basically all you spew is good and clean air. I mean, technology has caught up with these things. And we realized that the factory had not put those measures. They're expensive measures to put, and so people take shortcuts. And there are other measures that can also be taken through the production line to ensure that there is no pollution. So after about a week, we gave them 7 days. We went and inspected, and we were shown machines that had been bought, machines that had been put in. We were shown things that had been put in place. They were running the machines. For us, we saw that the air quality was okay. We had our machines. But then we told them, for us to be able to open your factory, because we don't want you to poison our people, we're going to allow you to operate for 1 week, and let's get the feedback. Let our experts be able to test the air quality, but the best tester of the air quality are the residents of Syokimau, because they're the ones who are hurting. And that is why I said, after this period, on the 8th of this month, let's have a meeting, a public participation meeting, between the factory, our experts, the NEMA experts, and the 190, and let the truth come out. Has the factory really pulled its weight? Has it done what it's supposed to do? You know what I mean? Let the residents' voices be heard.
At the same time,
come out and say this is not happening, this has happened. Because Kunokora, for example, when I ordered the factory to be closed, I was surprised the following morning to find that it was operating.
Yes, it was.
So I had to send my askaris to actually arrest the people who are operating. There's a sense of impunity here.
Okay, so Governor, if I may ask you, so at this moment when we are speaking, the factory is in operation. Okay, so Nazir is here with us on the line, and if I can ask you, Nazir, right now, from what because you live in the area, has there been any difference since the time where these corrective measures were said to have been put in place, or at least were asked of this company, and what you're experiencing at the moment, even before your meeting on the 8th? What do you experience now?
Let me address this issue since you've asked this question. And our governor needs to know the people he's dealing with. This particular factory is very, very clever. They know the magnitude of how much work they need to do in order for that pollution to come out. When they are desperate and they need production to be done, they will put it at a maximum power. When they are being investigated, or they know anybody is keeping an eye on them, there's the watchdog. And now they know there's the watchdog. They will do it at a minimum rate. And this is how they have always been operating. There are times when they heard things coming in court or anything that's coming up in the news, they would kill it down. They would keep it very low. And right now they know they need to satisfy the authorities. They need to satisfy the governor's team. So they are operating it at a very low level. I will assure you, once the governor issues that letter or whatever happens, it is a goodbye. We will not hear from the governor again. We will not hear from his team. And why I say we will not hear from his team, let the governor also know the kind of team he has. If it takes the governor to drive through that factory one day and smell that thing and investigate, and then he comes back and he says he has an environment team. Where was this environment team all these years? When it was coming in the press, it was coming in the news.
That's a valid question. That's a valid question. Let's hear from Dr.
Can I
Muga.
chip in? Can I chip in? You know, if you noted, I did some reshuffles in my government. I got some people removed from those dockets. I did some reorganization because it was very clear something was not right over here. And I can assure you, Nazir, that the standards that we will agree on, and you will agree on with my team on the 8th, are the standards that are going to be maintained. And any communication from my office will be very clear. If this factory goes against what we've agreed on, and they go to what you're talking about now, increasing the production and the pollution comes back, I can assure you we'll yank that license and we'll physically close down that factory for life. We are not going to allow people to play games with us. And I'm not going to allow my people to,
to continue
be
suffering,
used to play games. Yeah. Even my workers to be. So, but I want to.
The issue of workers, as we continue with this conversation, Dr.
Yes.
The issue has been raised by the residents. There is an environment department in the county government.
Yeah,
there is environment at the national level.
One of the reasons.
Yep.
One of the reasons when I ask my people, why haven't you moved into this factory? Why did you have to wait for me to take action? They say that NEMA was on top of things and that they had been talking to NEMA. They had communications with NEMA. I saw letters between us and NEMA had gone to court. And the courts had issued an injunction against NEMA closing the factory. And we have to obey court orders. But Machakos had not been party to these court cases. Therefore, we can move. So from the documents I've seen, NEMA is basically powerless as we speak right now. They are not allowed by the courts.
But during this time,
as
your officers were having the conversation with NEMA, writing to one another back and forth, was the issue ever escalated, even brought to your CEC meetings?
It was, but we cannot deal with, my friend, we have over 500 factories in Machakos operating right now, different issues. Not every issue comes to a cabinet meeting. You know what I mean? Departments are supposed to deal with their issues. And so it had not yet come all the way up because we deal with so many issues. And this is not the first one. We had issues with another factory. We had other issues. And some of them are sorted at departmental level and it's taken care of.
What needs to happen before it gets to a cabinet meeting, Governor?
It needs to be, it has to be a memo. It has to be an issue that now has failed to be sorted by the department that now needs a county-wide discussion about it.
It seems that this has gotten a lot of attention, Governor, however, if I may ask. It seems that this has gotten a lot of attention because the residents have tried. They've clamored for a very long time and they haven't got any audience. It went to the media. It went to the media and it has gotten attention. Is that what needs to happen for some of these cases then to be given attention?
Well, at times, tell you the truth, that is what needs to happen. And that is the nature of all things. I remember at one time, I had a house in the United States, and there was a mall that was coming up next, and we residents felt that it was not proper, and we demonstrated, and we called the media, and that's when action was taken. Unfortunately, governments are big machineries, and governments cannot really move as fast as the residents want to move. So I have no problem myself with the residents rising up and calling for their rights. I'm one of the people who says that if the system is not moving as fast, let the residents speak out. Unajua Kiswahili tunasema anayefinywa na kiatu, ndio wika. So we want the residents. So it is not, we should have proper systems. But you see, the residents had actually complained. NEMA had taken it up. My officers had been following up, and they knew that NEMA was on top of things, and there was a court order barring any action against it. So it's not to say that nothing had been happening. It's only that when it blew up, and when I smelled that, I called my lawyers and I said, does this court order bar me from doing something? And we went through 2 days of going through the legalese, and we found out that I had the powers to do things I was not barred myself as the governor of Machakos from taking out action.
Governor, before all these things happen, you say you have 500 factories within your jurisdiction. Have you ever had
500 plus?
Okay, let's round it off to 600. Have you ever had such a case before?
Yes, we have. We've had several cases before.
Yes.
And there's a very recent case in Machakos whereby there was a factory where we got a complaint that the workers in the factory were dropping dead. They were burying a worker every month or so. And they were producing, they had chemicals, and the residents around there were complaining. We got a letter. The thing is, this Syokimau Resident Association did not write any letter to my office directly. Yes, they dealt with my government, but there was no letter to my office directly. So they cannot say that I got the letter and sat on it. This other factory, we found out, had a problem, and we shut it down. And they took corrective measures, and we had health experts and all that. So that is just a recent one. We had another one in Kilimani area. We've had one or two in Mlolongo, another one in Syokimau. So there is a general abuse of regulations. There's a general abuse of the law in the Republic of Kenya. And it cuts across the board, from the police to the highest officers, where people feel that they don't need to obey the law. I mean, you look at
it also sounds to me,
yesterday,
Governor, that there's a problem with the enforcement agencies in your government.
Or the inspection agents.
The inspection.
There is no. The inspection agencies are able. These are the ones that now become overboard. There are others that we inspect, and we are able to take measures before they become problematic. But there are those others that start playing games. Like Nazir was saying, you are there today, you inspect, everything is okay. A week later, they're back to normal. We shut down quite a number of them. You know what I mean? Because there's a culture of impunity that we need to deal with.
How do we deal with that, Governor? Because you see, for someone like Nazir, somebody like Nazir who has already lost a child, and they highly suspect that this child died as a result of pollution from this particular factory,
very, very sad.
That is already a case too many.
Yeah, it's and Nazir, my condolences. It's heartbreaking as a parent. I know what it means to lose a child. I mean, it just makes me choke, losing a child over something that you think should not have happened. We need a change in Kenya, my friends. I mean, it is not time, because this is also political. We need a change in the way we do things in this country. We've become extremely bureaucratic. Our systems are very long. You look at the court systems are used frequently to stop, to basically constrain justice, whereby our procedures really, people give injunctions at times in places where they shouldn't give injunctions. Our legal system takes too long. For example, you see, from the time the injunction was given, it's been months. An injunction should have been given for 1 week or 2 weeks, and then the case is sorted out and factory closed or something moves. But injunction is given, and then it can even last 2 years.
Can I ask you, Governor, I just want to ask a question here, because as we're talking about the whole legalese of things now, there's a set of regulations which I believe that certain companies within several jurisdictions are asked to operate within, is it not? And if you find that certain companies are not operating within those regulations, why then is it so difficult? It seems like the push and pull is quite a lot. Why is it so difficult to get them pulled out of operation? Because we're talking about lives here. We're talking about people not living with quality of life. We're talking about loss of life. We're talking about the environment being endangered. We're looking at so many things at the same time. And then on the other hand, we're talking about a multi-billion shilling industry that we can't just see go to waste. So why is it so difficult to get them to operate within regulation?
Well, I think it's because, as I said, our judicial system is used and abused.
But is it really a problem with the judicial system, Governor?
It is largely a judicial system. Trust me, my friend, we have tried shutting down some factories, and we've been slapped with court orders telling us not to touch them. You know what I mean? And so our court system has been abused, because people know when they go to court, it is going to take 2 to 3 years before that case is ever had. And so they can continue abusing the law. But nonetheless...
Do you have leeway to not renew a license?
Yes, you do. We do have leeway. But you see, when a court order says you cannot take any action against this company or affecting the operations of this company, and you deny them a license, then you're held for contempt of court.
And people's lives hang in the balance at the same time?
Exactly. And that is why I'm saying that we need a new way of doing things in this country.
But do we also have leeway to ensure
changing things,
that factories are not allowed to even begin operations until and unless they meet the most stringent of requirements? And that these requirements are adhered to, surely.
Yeah, this is where now I've told my people that, there are some responsibilities that are not ours. The responsibility of ensuring that the factory is up to environmental standards is not up to my county. That is a regulation that is done by NEMA. And we depend on the NEMA approval, and that is how it works.
Yeah.
So, when you're building anything, if you want a loan, you want whatever, the banks ask you for NEMA approval. So the banks will not come and do due diligence because NEMA is supposed to do that. As a county government, before we can allow you to operate, we ask you for your NEMA approval. So if NEMA has already given you the approval, so we believe that the steps have been taken. So NEMA also needs to answer some questions about the type of approval that they give.
So there's a breakdown there. There's a breakdown. Yes, there is the issue when it goes to court, and courts are basically doing their job, which is what is presented before them.
The court will look at it and say, was this company approved by NEMA? Yes.
Yep.
Did this company then get an operating license from the county? Yes.
Yes.
Has this company invested? Yes. Has this company? Yes. So why are you shutting it down? So it comes back to the regulatory organs, NEMA, my government, other governments. So this has been very good because now, as a result of this, I have asked my team to look at the regulations and we're going to change. And now we're going to get equipment so that we don't just rely on NEMA. We add on and say that before you open, you are cleared by NEMA, but also the county government and environmental department also has to clear you.
Right. You have a meeting,
which is basically double dipping, because now we are doing other people's jobs, and so we shouldn't. It's going to cost us.
You have a meeting on the 8th of August, and you called for everybody to come and share in terms of the ideas and what can actually be done. I mean, I'd be very interested to know that what can residents, because I'm looking at it from that side, what can residents be assured of? Because at the end of the day, I think they would get the short end of the stick if operations still continue the manner in which they're operating now.
No, I think they can be assured of that as long as I'm the governor of Machakos, you're not going to allow their lives to be affected by pollution. These companies are either going to operate properly or shut down. It's as simple as that. We are not going to allow lives of children to be, taken because people want to make money. But in the same way, the company has said that they want to operate and that they are going to adhere to the set regulations, etc., then they better keep their end. But also, as residents, it is also good to know. There was the issue about land. And I know when Professor there was giving us the quote of the day, I like calling Professor, about the eyes, what is it?
The eye does not forget what the heart has seen.
Yes.
Yeah, especially when the heart sees land, as some people in this country do. So when people move into neighborhoods and they already factories in that neighborhood, and there's a zoning, there's zoning, and the way the zoning system is, some areas are zoned agricultural, others are zoned, some land is agricultural, but areas are zoned
commercial, industrial,
others are zoned residential, and etc.
Yep.
It is important as people invest to check how the zoning is, because the zoning in that area is both industrial and residential. So we are rezoning the area to cut the boundaries. So because I have seen people come and put a building next to a factory that has been there for 30 years, and then after a few months, they want the factory to move. And we see this a lot. You see people moving on to an airport that has been there for 50 years. They put up residential around the airport, and then after a while, they want the airport to move because now it's causing pollution and the planes take off and noise.
So your lands department is not taking this?
No, there's a responsibility between the residents, and there's a responsibility between the government and also the people who are investing. So people also need to know, as you invest, you need to look at the environment around where you're investing and find out how is it zoned. Who owns this piece of land, what factory is here. Because some of these factories have been there for a while, and so you come and put up an apartment building next to the factory, and then after a while now it affects you. But nonetheless,
they should not be polluting anyway.
They shouldn't be polluting whether it's in an area that has nothing in close proximity to it, though. If we're looking at the environment alone, void of individuals.
At the end of the day, everybody needs to perform the way they are performing, and they need to perform according to the regulations, period.
Governor Alfred Mutua, I want to thank you very much for speaking to us this morning. Would like you to speak directly to Nazir Savio. In fact, we'll start by asking Nazir to speak to you directly and pass on a message to you. I mean, this is somebody who says he's been personally and directly affected. He has lost one child. He has another child who's sickly and highly suspects this is as a result of pollution in his neighborhood. Nazir, speak to the governor.
Dr. Alfred?
Yes,
I
I'm
will
here.
first wish you well, and I will talk to you as a brother, not even now as my governor. I address you as a brother. Just to correct one statement, our residents have been here several years, many, many years before this factory came up. This factory came up 2016, it was put up. So we were here way before that. That is one. When we had our meeting with NEMA and with the factory, this was sometime last year in the beginning, there were almost 17 to 18 violations that were noted, and they were asked to sort this problem out and come back. Until today, we've not heard from them that whether they obtained the licenses or what were put in place. Residents were not made part of approving this factory when it was being put up. There were regulations that were violated.
I think Nazir,
Till today,
I want to interrupt you, Nazir, because I wanted you to just give a direct message, and I think you've already started giving that message. I'd like to take a quick break. Dr. Mutua, your response to Nazir and the residents of Syokimau.
I want to tell Nazir, Paul Sana, what has happened, and I just want to tell you that I want you to feel free to contact me directly. You don't have to wait until things go out of hand. And I'm asking the residents of Machakos, write to me. I respond to letters quickly. If you write to me directly as the governor, it will come to my desk and I'll assign an officer to deal with it and action will be taken. So as you rightly said, the buck stops with me. You elected me. I'm there to serve you and I'm going to serve you. And so if my officers are failing, please let me know and I'll take action. Because as you know, at times I may not know everything. I can't know everything that is going on. So when things are happening and you think the governor needs to know, please let me know and I'll take action. And I can assure you that we are not going to allow your child, your family to suffer anymore. They have suffered enough.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mutua. We'll reach out to you as the weeks progress to see the impact of the action that has been taken by the county government of Machakos and also the level of satisfaction of the residents of Syokimau and also even the investors around Machakos County. Asante sana for speaking to us both. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Taking a quick break. We're also broadcasting live on KTN Home as well as www.spicefm.co.ke. We'll be back shortly.
You are tuned in to Nairobi's #1 soul station, Spice FM. 94.4 Spice FM. Nairobi. Spice FM. Nakuru.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
Conversation continues. You've heard from the residents of Syokimau. You heard from the governor of Machakos County. And you also, when you listen to this, it points to a very big issue here where it's a breakdown of communication and breakdown of order between government, people, and people who are supposed to do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, I think
Because for me, it's about NEMA doing its job. It's about the Department of Environment in Machakos County doing its job. It's about the Ministry of Environment in the country doing its job. This is not just the only issue. The other day, we were talking about the Mombasa case. It took very many years, back and forth, threats being taken to court, court injunctions, calls coming from high places. Same thing we see here today, calls coming in from so-called high places to to try and persuade or try and push a certain agenda.
Unfortunately, bureaucracy takes place, and then individuals' lives are lost, sacrificed on the altar of this same bureaucracy, or this same wanting to do favors for whatever it be, the powers that be, politically lead, whomever, those who have the power of the pocket. And it's quite unfortunate that we still have conversations like this. Look, and I say, look, even if it was a company that was standing on an island by itself and was still causing harm in one way or another, whether it just be to the environment and not individuals, that's more than enough to say that there's certain regulations that should be followed.
If you have porous laws, or you have a porous mechanism for ensuring that laws are adhered to, then unscrupulous companies will want to set up a base in your country.
There you go.
Because they then know. You
They
see
can
what
slide through the cracks.
Precisely. It's like dumping toxic waste that comes from nuclear products.
Yep.
If countries are paid to take it in, but at what cost to their people?
Exactly.
And it's not cost for a year. It's like a lifetime of costs.
You know, one thing we can be sure of is that in this country, the laws and the regulations on environment management are watertight.
They are clear.
And they are very, very clear. It is people who don't do what they're supposed to do.
Exactly. If we're talking about the same Siokimau now, because just 100 meters from this company is where you have companies that are dumping raw sewage on the roads.
There you go.
Same area, same National Environment Management Authority, same thing would say, all right, they're going to turn
Same
a blind
county
eye.
inspectors.
Same county inspectors who have been given the mandate or given the responsibility to make sure such things are not being done. But they're going to turn a blind eye because, all right, somebody's going to shove a few shillings in their direction. Whereas the thing should be that you have a proper sewage system. The things should be that because I am very sure, all of these closet towns of Nairobi, the dormitory towns of Nairobi, areas of Nairobi, they have a policy that should be followed. By the time they mushroom and open up, there's something that should be followed. It's not being followed. And somebody's turning a blind eye every single time.
And I think this is why we keep talking about, even as the governor says he's taking action and ensuring that the wrongs have been righted, he should also take action against his officers. We ought to see, in fact, even prosecution proceedings happening.
Actually,
and the
this
officers
one
who
isn't
allowed this
resolved
to
by
happen.
moving them around. No.
Get rid of them.
Need to see them in
No,
court.
not just get rid of them, prosecute.
People should be
You see,
prosecuted.
some of these harms that we keep speaking about, people don't have to die. Environmental harm will last your whole life, and you can pass it on to your children.
Yep.
It's not something...
Generational.
Yes. So how exactly do you treat such a crime? Because it is a crime.
Yep.
Because
That's
you have
the only
somebody
way
being
is calling
compromised
people
for
to
life.
account. Let's take another break as we take a look at traffic coming to the top of the hour. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We broadcast from Nairobi. We are in Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri, Malindi. We are worldwide on www.spicefm.co.ke. And Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. We are also on KTN Home. Keep it right here. Good morning. It's 8 o'clock.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM. Kisumu.
I have no idea what's going on today, but Thika Road, we had that accident outbound, and that is affecting inbound traffic. Unfortunately, it is a fatal one, and police trying to figure out exactly what's going on so that the service lanes have been clogged up, unfortunately. Another accident, a serious one, on the bypass linking ABC to Red Hill Road. Please drive carefully as you approach the area. Police are also being waited on to sort that out. So the jam that we see on Thika Road is likely to be epic today, as is that around Westlands because of the two accidents that we've seen there. Please, guys, be careful. Kasarani Mwiki Road traffic is seriously bumper to bumper. It's not moving this morning. We know that the road is being worked on at some point. Okay, in Mlolongo on Mombasa Road, a pedestrian has been hit, and that is causing some traffic as well. So 3 accidents and counting this morning. Hopefully we're not counting anymore. We're asking everybody to please be careful. If you're in an area where there is some traffic, let us know so that we can use an alternate route if you find one. Spice FMKE will keep you updated about what it looks like in different parts of the city and the country in a short bit.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Nduh Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room. The only way to...
Thank you very much for tuning in to Spice FM. This is The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. We are now talking about COVID-19. A story on page 10 of The Standard this morning. Why reinfections are making search for vaccine hard. Hope for herd immunity also dashed as cases of reinfection mean chain of transmission may not be stopped. Now, this is basically now bringing another whole conversation to the entire concept of herd immunity, where the thought was that if you'd like to deal with lowering the spread of the COVID-19, let as many people as possible contract the virus so that they become immune, they develop natural immunity, and many people are also, the other side is if you vaccinate as many people, the disease gets, there's immunity in the community. So there's reduced transmission in the community. Unfortunately, the story highlights the case of two people. One is John Kinyanjui, and John Kinyanjui had tested positive for COVID-19. By mid-June, the symptoms had subsided and he was feeling much better. However, in July, in the first week of July, he woke up with joint pains and shivers. The next day, he had lost his sense of smell. The feeling as if something heavy had been placed on his chest was familiar because he had felt this before. Went back to hospital, got retested. He was positive for coronavirus again, barely weeks after turning negative of COVID-19. Also tells the story of Galgalo Bocha, who recently got discharged from Coast General Hospital after 35 days staying in the hospital. Every time after every 14 days, tests, you're still positive for COVID-19. Test again, you're still positive for COVID-19. 35 days is when he stayed in hospital. Now, the issue being raised here is the issue of herd immunity, how it works. The more people become immune, the less likely that they are to spread the disease. Most viral diseases spread from one person to the next. So herd immunity breaks the chain when people are not getting the disease or spreading it. This protects the vulnerable and those who have not been vaccinated. Why we want to discuss this is because yesterday we got a call after having a conversation with the Secretary General of the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Union, who is battling COVID-19 at home, and he was giving us his experience. This gentleman called William from Diani, who is a regular caller into the show, called in and said, you know what, you guys, there's this whole issue of herd immunity. My friends and I sat down and thought, how are we going to deal with this COVID-19? As we're talking all the other measures in place, how about we just expose ourselves to this virus, we get it, we fight it, and then we emerge, having dealt with COVID-19. And that sounded rather controversial when we heard it from William yesterday, and we promised that we want to raise this issue, bring in experts. Let's discuss this issue of herd immunity, the concept and the route to take on herd immunity. William was saying that they deliberately exposed themselves to the virus, and they have been going through the journey of dealing with COVID-19. And, as far as it's concerned, it's working for them. They are fighting it. So far, they're fine. William is joining us on the line. Good morning, William.
Morning to you guys.
How are you?
Good morning.
No, I'm fine, thank you. I hope you guys are well too.
We are well, thank you.
Are you well?
Yeah. I'm good.
You're good.
I'm good.
So
I'm good.
this is day number what after you tested positive for COVID?
Sorry? This is?
Day number what after testing positive for COVID?
Day number 18.
All right. So just for people who did not get to hear you yesterday, just take us again through what you and your two friends decided to do.
Well, for the longest time, I think a month or two, we've been discussing the whole issue about herd immunity and the fact that at the end of the day, by 2021, 60% of the population will actually be exposed to COVID. Okay, and that majority of guys are silently, probably unknowingly, on getting it and getting through to deal with it unknowingly. And we felt, okay, one, if you expose yourself to COVID, you have better chances of improving your
immunity,
the antibodies in your blood plasma, so as to prevent yourself from getting reinfected or having a worse form of it when you're infected with it. And we thought, why don't we expose ourselves to it, deal with it, improve our antibodies in our blood, and just be on the other side of the divide where you've gone through it and you've dealt with it. So, well, the reason why we did it in a bit like around July is you had to go through our medicals first. Yeah? And like for me, I took my medicals on the 7th July. I normally take my medicals every year, of course, for my Medicare plan, just to ensure everything. So I did my medical and I was well. One of my friends, the relative, was at home, with COVID and dealing with, going through the home therapy. And actually, as we speak, is okay. He just went through it and he tested negative. So we decided, we had that conversation. We asked ourselves, why should we do it?
So you exposed yourselves to this person whom you knew was
yes,
dealing with COVID-19.
Yeah, he was undergoing home therapy.
Okay.
And actually my friend was the family were actually taking care of the guy because he was under home therapy.
Okay. Yeah? So did all of you test positive at the same time?
Yes. And that was around 18 days ago. Okay. And the reason why we did it, of course, we asked ourselves a lot of things. We had so many discussions before we even took that step. Okay, so we are 32 years and below averagely. We are healthy and active in sports. We've done our medicals. They've come back well, so we don't have any underlying diseases that will accelerate if you get infected with COVID. That will put you in a bad situation. Okay, and then we also wanted to take the responsibility to ensure that we were doing this safely. So, of course, we put our resources, and we had resources to ensure that we would self-isolate ourselves. Okay? And in fact, as much as everybody talks about 14 days, we wanted to do at least 22 days. So, like as we speak, I still have another 5 days of isolation for myself, for ourselves, actually. Okay? So we had the resources to do that. So we had a place where we could isolate ourselves and do exercises. It's just a small villa, in a village away from everyone else.
William, can I ask you, did you do this? Did you do this to prove that because you were healthy, active, and all, that you would get COVID and be able to recover, or did you do this to prove the theory that or to prove this particular theory? Exactly why did you do it? Or did you do it to be able to get COVID, get it over and done with, and then move on with your life? So were you proving a theory, or
actually,
did you want to get COVID so that you could be finished with it?
We just wanted to get done with it. That fear. We wanted to get over that fear. Of course, you don't want to play God. Okay? You just wanted to get over that. Everyone is majority of the guys are going to get it. Probably most guys, I've been infected, gone through it, of course, and unknowingly.
Right.
Okay, but for us, we wanted to do it with being in control. Okay.
So what happens, if I can ask you then, with all of these things being put into consideration, what happens if you get it again?
Well, I can guarantee you. So this is like a summer holiday on the down low. So definitely we're gonna be on a very toned down interaction level for the next 2-3 months. Okay, and well, there's another factor to consider. We had actually planned to do a cycling trip to Dar es Salaam. Okay, the June-July period, and because the border is closed, we decided this is, let's put our resources to this. We'll still put our active training.
William, you haven't answered the
what
question.
happens if you get it again?
I'll still go through it because I've gone through it. Okay, I'm better prepared psychologically.
Yep.
I'm better prepared in terms of information. I'm better prepared in terms of what involves home therapy. Okay, I'm better prepared on what are the critical stages to go through it in terms of medication and
the other measures,
the treatment process. Okay. Yeah, like I was telling you,
William, just as we continue this conversation, I want to bring in the expert in this, and we have Dr. Moses Masika, a virologist from the University of Nairobi. He's on the line. Dr. Moses, how are you?
I'm well, Eric and Nduh and City. I hope you're okay, and good to hear from William as well.
Morning, Dr.
We are well, thank you, and thank you for coming to the show.
To you, Dr.
Thank you. Happy to be back.
Doc, you've heard what William is saying, and you've heard the reasoning behind William and his friends' decision to expose themselves to the virus and to go through this whole treatment process. Immediately you hear this, Doc. Does this make sense?
I think William is a very good gambler, the kind that takes multi-bets. Because knowing what you know about the virus, it's something I wouldn't do, although I'm naturally very curious as a researcher. And I say that for several reasons. I understand where it's coming from, that we know herd immunity to have worked for some conditions, and that if you're infected, for example, with measles and you survive, you may not be infected again. But we do not know that yet about COVID-19. So if, for example, his reason is that he wants to develop antibodies to be able to protect himself in future, there is no guarantee that those antibodies are going to come. There is also no guarantee that if he develops antibodies, they are going to protect him against infection, because some people do develop antibodies and are not useful, and also how long they will last. So those are questions that we've seen some preliminary studies that are quite equivocal about it. Some people do, some people don't. So you end up sacrificing or putting yourself at risk without any gain as you expected. And secondly, we also hope that he survives the infection. And in as much as he says he's 32 years old, we know actually so far about 50 Kenyans below 40 years have actually passed on, including some under 10 years. So that means you are the same gambling. What if you are among those who actually get severe disease and succumb? Additionally,
but I think also, to be fair to William, he did not just get up and subject himself into this gamble. He says he went through the entire medical checkup. He checked the whole system. He was sure that his sugar levels are good. He was sure that his blood pressure was good. He was sure about the other things before taking this particular gamble.
Yes, and you realize even, is it yesterday, the CIS was talking about people who are dying and have no underlying conditions?
Yep.
Yes, so it's not that we don't get severe cases or deaths in this group. It's just that they are less, and so the people with underlying conditions are at a greater risk. But there's also a smaller risk for people who are, say, young and also healthy. So it's not that, actually globally there has been about 1% of the deaths, 1% risk of death in such people. So how do you know that you are not going to tip over and get into that category? Secondly, there is, maybe thirdly or fourthly, there is an issue of the effect of this virus in the long term. We still have so many questions as to what happens to your body say 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, a year after infection. We've had people complaining of joint pains. We've had people complaining of easy or thick blood, making it easy to get clots, and many other things are being reported. As we make observations and get the evidence for this long-term effect of the virus, it will become clear that COVID-19 may not just stop after infection. It may continue for a while after. And this is not the first virus to do that. There are viruses that cause long-term effects after infection. The other thing is that we as you try to expose yourself, you could actually be infected already. So what you are doing by exposing yourself is exposing others. And then because it means you don't take the measures you would to protect yourself, so you end up maybe staying without the mask or not doing any of the other measures like social distancing. And so you may be infected already and you do not know. And infection can be within a week. And even if you tested today, you could be infected today and test positive 3 days later. So that risk of exposing somebody else, infecting them, and possibly killing them if they are at risk of severe disease is real. And finally, it is a strategy that I wouldn't take as a country because of the ability to cope with a high number of cases. So if you have many people exposing themselves intentionally, some of them will inevitably get sick and they will need hospitals. What if the hospitals cannot handle that high number, which can happen if we don't control that rate of infection? So there are many reasons, as I said.
Dr. Masika, if I hear you correctly, you are saying that there is not enough evidence at the moment about COVID-19 to enable one to actually make an accurate decision on what one should actually do or should not do.
We have some evidence on how to prevent it. Particularly in this case, the evidence comes short when we are talking about immunity after infection. So you cannot say for sure after infection you are immune and for how long that immunity will last. We know with other coronaviruses, some people develop immunity for about 3 months. But it's not everybody, and it's not, 3 months is a short time. Corona will still be here. And what happens after that? We've seen some interesting viruses where previous infection may actually make you more predisposed to severe disease.
But Dr. When I hear you say, we still don't have information regarding the development of antibodies in the body, with so many cases that have tested positive so far, we are hearing all the other information coming from you researchers. We know the changes in terms of symptoms that are exhibiting. We know the impact of COVID-19 in the body. But why is it not possible for us to tell, for example, the greater percentage of people are developing antibodies and they're lasting 10 days or they're lasting 15 days or so? Why is this information not so forthcoming from researchers?
It's because of the several reasons. One is the kind of tests we have currently are not the best for testing antibodies. So there's a lot of cross-reactivity, which means somebody testing positive for a COVID-19 test may actually be reacting because they have antibodies to another coronavirus. The other thing is that having antibodies is not necessarily protection. What you need to do at that point is to confirm by exposing a virus to those antibodies to see if that virus is inactivated. So that is what we call a neutralizing antibody. So because this is ongoing, we have reports coming from different parts of the world, reporting different levels of antibodies, but with more questions than answers. Because the first question is, which test did you use? How accurate is it? And secondly, what does having this antibody mean? Is it because I have survived COVID-19? Is it because I was infected with another coronavirus? And secondly, how long does this last? And will it be able to prevent recurrence? And that can only be done after we see a large number of people in the world, basically, who have survived COVID-19 getting re-exposed to COVID-19. That is not something that takes a short time to document, mainly because of the testing involved and also the numbers.
Well, I think there's a very interesting conversation that's emerging here. And from what William has said he has done, he and his friends have done, exposing themselves to COVID-19, in his mind so that he can get it over with, deal with it, get it over with, and then his body is able to deal with it. But I'm sure that William will still be insisting on taking the precautionary measures. This is a conversation that we are continuing to have. Let's take a break right here on Spice FM, the Situation Room. We have on the line Dr. Moses Masika. He's a virologist, a researcher at the University of Nairobi, and William, a listener of the Situation Room, who called us yesterday and said, I've subjected myself and exposed myself to COVID-19. Me and my friends wanted to develop immunity. And it's around the whole global concept. It's not just a Kenyan or a Diani concept of herd immunity. It's a global concept on this. So we'll be discussing this as we continue. Good morning. It's 22 minutes after 8 o'clock.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
Going up in Nairobi at 15 degrees, partly cloudy conditions are going to carry through the day with highs of 23. In Nakuru, it's partly cloudy at 13. Showers in the afternoon with highs of 22. 22 degrees and partly cloudy will be the forecast for the afternoon, and that'll be the high, where Njeri is currently at 14. Foggy conditions in Eldoret at 13, and thunderstorms later with highs of 18 and lows of 12. Kisumu's mostly cloudy at 20. We'll see highs of 26 and lows of 19. In Kakamega, where it's mostly cloudy at 17, showers expected later with highs of 23 and lows of 15. It's partly cloudy in Malindi at 24, highs of 28 and lows of 24, with a bit of a sprinkle in the afternoon. Mombasa is mostly sunny at 23. We'll see highs of 28. And in Kampala, it's 19 degrees and mostly cloudy, highs of 24 and lows of 18. Dar es Salaam, foggy this morning at 24, highs of 30 and lows of 22. Joburg is chilly this morning, but mostly sunny, 6 degrees, highs of 21, coming down to a low of 4. And finally, for now in Lagos at 24 degrees, clear skies all through. However, it'll change to shower conditions in the afternoon with highs of 29 and lows of 22.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Spice FM. Njeri.
Okay. So this accident on Thika Road is causing quite a number of problems this morning. It was a head-on collision, and that's outbound. It's affecting traffic inbound. So Thika Road, if you don't have to be there, then stay away. It is quite a bad one. Waiyaki Way also, it's moving ever so slowly, but it is still a bumper-to-bumper situation. There's a massive jam between Gitaru and Muthiga, and this is due to the Chinese construction work that's going on. Heading to town is majorly affected. Buruburu Mutindwa, near the Shell, there's a police toll center is what it's being called this morning, and so that's causing traffic there. Police toll center, call it what you may. Coming out of Magadi, also Magadi Road today, and then joining with Langata Road, a bit of a hold up there, so it's going to cause some traffic heading down towards the KWS and out. So we'll look at more traffic in different parts of the city. Coming out of Westlands also and into the CBD, a bit of traffic there, but you should be fine. It shouldn't be too terrible. Spice FM KE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter.
spice up your life.
26 minutes after 8. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room on Spice FM and KTN Home. In the studio this morning is Eric Latiff, Nduh Okoh, CT Muga, and on the line is William from Diani, who is a regular listener and a frequent listener and caller into the show. Yesterday, he gave us his personal experience. He tells us that he and his friends, two friends, decided that, well, you know what, guys, we are healthy, we are young, we are active, physically active, we ride bikes. We consider ourselves in that demographic that is not highly exposed or at risk of...
bikes as in bicycles or bikes as in motorbikes?
Bikes as in bicycles, I guess.
Cycling.
Cycling, yes.
Motorcycling or...
Not peng.
No, cycling.
Not peng. Not pick.
Not picky.
Baskeli. And so William and his friends decided to expose themselves to COVID-19. And then we are also speaking to Dr. Moses Masika, a researcher, virologist at the University of Nairobi. And the immediate reaction from Dr. Masika was, wow, this guy is such a heavy risk taker. In fact, calls him a gambler. And because of the kind of risk that he's taken on this. Very many questions emerge out of this. CT, I'll let you shoot first.
Well, if I were to go by what Dr. Masika has said, I would argue that William and his friends have simply just preempted what is likely to happen to almost every Kenyan, because there's so much information we don't have.
Yep.
There are those who are symptomatic, people who may have COVID but don't show. There are those who have developed immunity. And we are not really certain about how far and how wide COVID has actually spread. So it seems to me that, and this one is directed at Dr. Masika, there is a likelihood that every Kenyan might actually get infected.
Yes. CT, you raised a valid question that is on a lot of our minds. How many of us have been exposed? And in most parts of the world where corona has had its rounds, we are seeing, if you use the idea of looking for antibodies, about 10%. There are some that have reported quite high. Some as high as 40%, but with questions on that. So it's possible that over time, a bigger proportion of the population will be infected, a bigger number of us. But this is controlled in the sense that the system can then handle those who get infected in the meantime. It's all about making sure the infections do not overwhelm your health system, because if you have too many people getting infected at the same time, then you end up with more deaths, or because you cannot take care of those who are sick. So even if all of us eventually get exposed, which is unlikely, maybe it will be at most 2/3 or thereabouts, over, let's say, the next 3, 4, 5 years, it comes at such a slow pace that the system can handle it, as compared to letting everybody get infected and then you deal with the consequences. I'm sure you've seen the countries that have gone that way with quite a bit of blowback.
Yep.
And it's not a situation you want to get into intentionally.
Right.
If you can avoid it, it saves a lot of lives.
Dr. Masika, this is what you do for a living.
Maybe if I may raise a few points.
Yep.
If you don't mind. Okay, so first of all, I need to raise the fact that we've been practicing social distancing and keeping ourselves according to, of course, to the guidelines that the government is giving us. And of course, for us, we went further. Even we were following the CDC guidelines, in regards to how do we keep ourselves safe from this. And we did it from April. Okay, since we went into a lockdown. Okay, we've been isolating socially. Even right now, we are doing that. We wearing a mask, ensuring that we are not coming into contact with anyone. We disinfect ourselves, the place where we are putting up. Okay, and I think that should go on moving forward for us. But Dr. Masika has raised an issue on information. I would say partly the information is there. It's just that it's not being translated into layman's. We used 3 points of information. The first point of information, and which was very difficult for us, was the data coming in from the hospital in Wuhan.
the healthcare workers in that hospital, a couple of them got infected, okay? And the hospital decided, they got infected and recovered. And the hospital did a couple of testing on them, and there was some data that was documented. In fact, some of the nurses were coming back to donate their blood, and the blood was actually being used to improve and on the other patients to help them fight the COVID.
Where is this information, William?
Okay, so that information is on the Chinese on the Chinese medical. It's the Chinese version of CDC. Okay, but of course the difficulty in it is the translation, and the information is available on the Chinese version of the CDC. Okay,
so
but it's in Mandarin.
Do you or any of your colleagues or friends speak Mandarin?
We are very good with IT, so we were able to translate. Okay, that because it's a documented information.
So if I can understand this clearly, William, you got this information from a website in Mandarin, and because then of your IT
not just one. I want to still expand on that. So our second.
So one is
a website that was in Mandarin that you were able to then translate from a Wuhan hospital.
From the Chinese version of the CDC.
Okay.
Okay. The second was from Italy. Okay. And the Italian was it's a medical hospice organization that these what do you call them, the palliative healthcare providers. They were actually part of the frontline workers initially when Italy was dealing heavily with COVID, the first wave of infection. Okay, they the hardest hit were these home for the aged and palliative care institutions. Okay, so they had a lot of data in that area. And our third point of information was Johns Hopkins. So Johns Hopkins has been trying to document. They're putting in a lot of data on the issue of the antibody therapy, blood plasma therapy. So we also picked some points from there. Now, our biggest reason why we did this, we are feeling two things. We are feeling the way COVID is being handled in our country at the moment is raising a lot of stigma for the persons who are perceived to be COVID positive or who are infected with COVID. They're being treated like I would share a lot of stories on how the center in Mombasa, just the way guys are being treated. It's like you've done something wrong. We are still going back to the early 90s when we started dealing with HIV and AIDS, and the kind of way we were dealing with it and the stigmas we were actually silently or intentionally or unintentionally creating. Okay.
Actually, William, that's not entirely true. That's not entirely true. You see, even with HIV as with COVID, people were dealing with information that they had available to them at that particular point.
Information available to them, but the way we are handling the issue, given that now we have the experience of how we went through HIV and AIDS, okay, we should come out of this better. So for me, that was one. And two is that we feel, me and my group of friends, that the government we don't have a national strategy in regards to the entire population. Okay, and for us, we said, okay, much as we know all this, but is it responsible for us? So we say this is only for us. I'm just sharing with you.
Maybe William, maybe we should ask Dr. Masika to give us his opinion on this matter, because he is actually the expert here on viruses.
If I can put in a word, I would like to thank again William for sharing his experience. And it's not to say that the experience is totally uncalled for. It's for us forms a discussion, and maybe many other people are thinking they're doing the same thing. And he seems to have taken a lot of trouble to control the situation and circumstances. But there are, as I said, a big risk as to what could happen. The studies he raises from Wuhan and Italy, similar to many other studies that have been done on healthcare workers, showing that healthcare workers are more likely to be exposed to this virus. And actually, when you look at the antibody prevalences, so even when the studies are flawed, healthcare workers have bigger proportions of healthcare workers have been exposed to the virus. But the issue here is about the speed and the numbers. So we could say, yes, let's expose ourselves, all of us, and get sick and go back to work. But the effect of doing that, or even saying, let's expose those who are healthy and fit, the effect of doing that is that ultimately you'll have more infections, meaning you have more severe cases and more deaths because your system is overwhelmed.
It's a risk to the unknown.
Yes, that for me is the biggest risk we can take as a country, because we end up, all the sacrifices we've made in terms of economics and other sacrifices, then they end up being nullified because we still end up losing the number of lives that we are trying to avoid losing. So, I mean, it may seem to William to make sense for one person as an individual in very controlled circumstances, but as a country is not a strategy that we can take. It's not, in my view, it wouldn't be very wise for a country to go that way. And we've seen Sweden, we've seen Brazil, we've seen many countries that took a bit of a laid-back approach to allow the population to sort of brave the infection and move out of it. And you can see the number of deaths have not been encouraging, regardless of whether people are infected. I mean, regardless of whether the people who survive will be immune or not.
Dr. Maseka, is there any point at which deaths can be encouraging?
Dr. Maseka, I'd like to ask you, because I mean, obviously, this is obviously something that it's what you do. So, I mean, looking at other viruses that you've looked at over time, and I know that it's to do a comparative analysis may be difficult now, but looking at other coronaviruses that you've looked at, looking at other viruses like HIV, at the beginning it could be that we don't know, so that, I mean, William now, for example, has gone through a process that maybe would have been fueled with other information had we known more about this particular virus. But looking then at a lifetime or the chronology of a virus, I mean, we can't say that by August 31st we will be able to know more. But at what point would you be able to gather more information with what we've seen so far? By what point would you be able to say that, all right, by day 45, day 60, we should be able to see certain things? Can we do that even now with COVID?
Yes, I think a lot of information that was not known about COVID is now known. A lot of it is still coming to light, but you can never say we shall know enough. Look, this is how many years after HIV came to the fore? This is 35 years. We are still looking for a vaccine. We are still learning new things about HIV that we didn't know before. So I would say, well, some of the milestones we are looking at would be a vaccine, would be what we would call directly, say, definitive treatment for the virus. We would also be looking at getting to know what to look for to show that somebody is immune. Because, as I said, some antibodies are not necessarily protective. So we need to know what really does somebody who is immune to the virus express in their body that we can measure and say, Latiff is immune to this virus, and for how long does that last? Now, that bit, the immunity, how long it lasts, would take maybe at least, I think, a year, because you need infection, reinfection, and assays or tests that can actually detect that. And I thought it would something that was going to take a shorter time, but from what I'm seeing with the current testing methods, we need to do a bit more to optimize them. So there's no definitive duration. What I can say is that with COVID-19, we've seen such a fast movement, and partially because there was technology to support HIV that has now been mobilized, and also networks and the current IT level of technology to move this with so much speed. I mean, within a few months, we now have several vaccines in phase 3, which takes years to achieve. That is unprecedented. We have many other molecules or many other products in earlier phases being tested. And we've managed to, say, get a full genome of this virus within a week after it. Get what we call the PCR tests that are being used within a very short time. So the speed with which information is being developed is quite fast, because of the various reasons that have made it possible. And I think we're probably going to move faster than we did for HIV. The question is some of the milestones I placed, like a vaccine, the definitive treatment, definitive measures of immunity, may not. You may not necessarily put a timeline to them, because you could look at something that is very promising, but at the end, when you test it, it doesn't work as expected.
There's something else, Dr. Ari, that you had said that's coming to light, and this is the effect that COVID-19 is leaving on a body. After somebody has tested positive and then they test negative for COVID-19, there's what is left on the body. Can you just shed some light on what has been found so far?
Well, so far there's that bit of prolonged positive test results, where somebody is testing for weeks positive. There are a few people who have been shown to do that, and sometimes it's not because they have been reinfected. There's been no documentation of reinfection as such. It's because we think either for people who are very sick and they had taken in a lot of the lining of the airway going into their lungs, and this lining was infected. So when they eventually start to cough it out, some of it still has the virus, and because the virus at that time is the nucleic acid being tested, what we call the RNA. It may not necessarily be infectious. It may not necessarily be able to infect somebody else, but it will be detected on the test, because the test tests for nucleic acid, which is basically the genome that comes from the virus. It may not necessarily be infectious. So there's that prolonged shedding where the test will be positive, rather than somebody being reinfected. The other thing is that even after testing negative, what the virus had done to the body, the inflammation system the inflammation that had started in different parts of the body may have a longer term effect. For example, if your blood vessels are damaged, that may not go away immediately. And if other organs were affected, they may not recover immediately, and they could begin to suffer from other effects that we haven't documented properly right now, but we are seeing in a few people complaining about different things long after they test negative. So there are effects on the body itself that we do not know yet. We think with time we should be able to document this. In how many people, not everybody develops them clearly, but we don't know what proportion does. But secondly, there is the issue that we are yet to resolve about prolonged shedding of viruses. How come some people are shedding this virus for weeks? And where is it coming from? Is it because it's multiplying in the body? Is it because of the residual cells that are died and were dumped somewhere in the lungs and are now being coughed out? So it's not very clear as to what that could be due to.
Okay, William, I'm coming back to you, William. Then, I mean, your 22 days of now self-isolation ends in about 4 days or so, right? So then, even before this conversation, then what was your intention after that? To come back out, into society knowing that you've had COVID-19 and that you're all right, or then to continue protecting yourself, or how then, or what was your intention thereafter?
Of course, for us, we will still, because we are trying to prepare for a sports event. So we will still be in isolation too. Like I said, for us, this is a journey we decided to take, the three of us. It's our experiment, and we are prepared to go for the long haul with it. And we do not have actually any intentions of, how do I put it, of being irresponsible. Let me say that. Yes.
Did you at any one point speak to a doctor, a medical practitioner, and tell them of your intentions?
Actually, one of my three friends is a doctor.
But he planned to do this. So speaking to somebody outside of your circle, did you speak to anyone like this?
Actually, even the doctors, when we were doing we did our comprehensive medical checkup at different dates, but at all the three medical checkups, we were in discussion with a group of doctors, of course privately, because we do not want to. Yes, we are not doing this to maybe to spur a discussion or anything. This was just a journey for the three of us. So of course we went through that process of dealing with talking to the doctors. We even talked to a couple of doctors in States, of course, through Zoom a couple of times. We are still in talk with them. Okay. like I said, for us, it's a journey we've decided to take.
I'm curious as to whether doctors you told. I mean, I know that there's confidentiality between your conversations and such, but I'm curious as to whether you told them of your intention. You told them of your intention to go ahead and expose yourselves, and they gave you their approval.
We were not seeking any approval. Of course, most of them.
You were just telling them of your intentions. Okay.
Yes, most of and we were not seeking any approval.
Okay.
We just needed to get some guidance on now the issue of the therapies, the issues of the preventive, the control medication.
Yeah.
We needed a lot of information on now the three of us, what to expect. Okay. The signs and symptoms. And the preparation for it.
Would I be right in saying that you went through a very rigorous process of trying to understand as much as you possibly could about not only COVID-19 but what might actually happen to you?
Yes, and we put a lot of resources in it. Like I said, for us, me and my friends, we're in a group of thought. We feel the government does not have a strategy for this thing. Okay? And we said we have the resources to take ourselves through. I wouldn't want to call it a social experiment, but it was an experiment between the two of us.
It looks very much like a social experiment, though.
Yes, it is. But when you say a social experiment, then it's something that we intend to replicate. But this one we don't intend.
Actually, it's not you who will replicate it. Once the example has been set, others may choose to. But on the matter of the government not having a clear policy, tell me which government on the planet has a clear policy where COVID is concerned and an effective policy. Which one?
No. I don't want to turn this conversation political. Okay. I was just saying, for us, we felt frustrated. We felt frustrated that there wasn't a strategy and there wasn't a lot of information forthcoming in regards to this. And when we started researching and seeking out the information, we felt that the people handling this could be more responsible. They could be more forthcoming with information. We could have a better strategy in preparing the population on the issue of COVID.
Sounds like this was an evolution process for you. You started off by seeking information, and then you arrived at the decision to go ahead and take some action.
Yes, and the way Dr. Masika is saying it, this information is not coming in batches, let's say in batches 2 months, twice in 2 months or something. This information is evolving overnight.
Yeah.
Okay? The information trickling in is evolving overnight. But the trickling effect of this information to the masses in Kenya, it's taking time. Okay? Because if you look at CDC's guideline, for example, let me give you an example. If you look at the guidelines that they've issued, this is their sixth revised guideline in a span of 32 days. Okay? For us, that information, unless the information is being shared with a few healthcare organizations, maybe Cambridge and as such, and Kenyatta Hospital, but that information needs to be public, one. Two, the information has to be interactive. Okay.
Yep.
I have not seen forums where people are being called in, even on Zoom conferences or such discussions, to further understand. I'm a believer of thought, training trainers. So that even the people at the local level, in a layman's language, understand so much. So what the information that we have right now outside is wash your hands, keep social distancing, wear a mask.
And it ends there,
okay?
at that level.
At that level. But we are disregarding Kenyans who think beyond that.
Yeah, you come across as an advocate for open information and open sourcing of information.
Kenyans are smart and they have access to information. Stop treating them as you're packaging information for an illiterate population or for a population that needs to be guided like sheep. So people out here need more information.
Thank you, William. We're coming to the conclusion of this conversation. Dr. Moses Masika, as we conclude on this, just a quick response to what William is saying in terms of access to information and the information being disseminated and percolated to the entire population. and also your advice, as we'd like to give you an opportunity to keep talking to all of us on what we need to do and what we need to understand about COVID-19.
Yes, I think William has raised two issues. One is the country having no strategy. I think it does have a strategy. If it didn't, we would have had more cases and more deaths by now. And I think we cannot feel the effects of what the government has put in place.
Okay.
And it's actually part of that I'm wondering, even if somebody is immune now or considers themselves to be immune, they may not necessarily enjoy the benefits of saying they're immune because everybody else is still taking the measures that, well, not everybody, but most people are still taking the measures that are in place, and so you cannot necessarily go back to your previous life or whatever life you wanted to go back to.
True.
Secondly, in terms of information, the ministry actually has a website where they put all the guidelines that they leave, and these are so many actually. So that information is not hidden. The only issue is getting it and understanding it. And I think the government can try to share a lot of this information, but also people like William who go out to seek what they want to know, and others, you need to do so. I need to have probably guided, not guided, but given sources that are reliable.
Yeah.
And I think, yes, I don't think we'll ever say we have enough information, but I think the government has tried to disseminate their guidelines over time. They are there online, all of them, including the previous drafts. As to my message to Kenyans is from this conversation, we shouldn't try to expose ourselves intentionally to COVID-19. One, because we can't deal with the numbers if everybody exposes themselves. And secondly, in the process of exposing ourselves, we may put others at risk as well as ourselves. And at the end of the day, there's no guarantee that you will be immune to the virus after exposure. That's all.
Thank you very much, Dr. Moses Masika, virologist and researcher at the University of Nairobi, and William, who is, what do we call you, William, an information advocate?
I would call him a pioneer. Because he and his friends they are a brave lot of fine Kenyans who have determined to take a step that very, very few people would take.
Want to take.
Yes.
Indeed. Thank you very much for sharing your experience with us, William. And also, I think it's important that you also send a message to everybody else in the public. Don't try this at home, right?
Yeah, of course. Me and my friends, we've done it responsibly. We put in a lot of resources for this. It's not just a joke, of course, and it's not a hoax, or we don't want to disseminate false information.
Sure.
It's still a journey we are taking. We are still in the journey.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much for speaking to us. This is a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Thank you very much to our audience on KTN Home. We'd like to bid you goodbye now. We'll join you again tomorrow at 7 a.m. The conversation on Spice FM and www.spicefm.co.ke continues. Join us for the next hour because we still have a lot to talk about. They have to take a political angle to things. The seventh time. On the seventh time they tried, maybe they succeeded. And we are talking about the Senate and what it has to do. But we still have a couple of minutes, 5 minutes to the top of the hour. Good morning. Thank you very much to KTN Home. See you tomorrow. Spice FM, stay right here on 94.4 in Nairobi, Mombasa 87.9, 102.5 in Kisumu, Nakuru 96.0, Eldoret 96.7, Njeri 90.9, and Malindi 97.7.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
You called William and his friends pioneers.
They are pioneers.
Mm-hmm. Others are calling them COVIDiots.
You know, that is the beauty of having this freedom that we enjoy under our constitution. They are also enjoying it. They determined, they're adults, they made a decision, and this is what they want to do.
Yep.
And as one of our listeners pointed out to me, that this is something that could be of great social significance. And I agree. However, COVID is a medical issue. We can talk around it as much as we like. It's a medical issue. And if there's one issue that has never had the sort of enormity this one does, because it's something that has gripped the entire planet.
Yeah. It has very many angles to it.
Yes.
Very many angles to this particular one. I mean, and the issue of herd immunity, it's a global debate. The pros, the cons, does it work, does it not work? Is it going to strain your healthcare system? Has it?
You know, when people talk about herd immunity, it's as though it's one universal idea that covers all diseases. It doesn't. You will find that herd immunity for one disease doesn't quite work the same as others. For instance, if you look at the information that is available, in measles, for herd immunity to happen or to occur, you need 19 out of 20 people to actually have it before it can. Okay.
Yep.
In others, you need 60%. In others, we don't know. No, COVID falls that category of what we don't know.
No. Yeah. Yes. We don't even know whether you actually even develop immunity.
Man,
starting from that point.
Eric, we don't even know how many people have been infected.
We don't know how many people have it here where we are. You don't even know if herd immunity may have taken place and then flopped. You don't know.
Coming to the top of the hour, CT Muga, let your eyes speak to your heart.
Well, no, the eyes actually simply, in that speaking, never forgets what the heart has seen.
Oh, Bambi.
All right. Why?
When you hear hurt, what is it about you? And when you hear hurt, you're like,
It just pumps blood. What's there? Nothing, Joe.
It's clear that, yes, her speech patterns get altered.
She hears a hurt.
You know something?
What is it?
Think about the heart in terms of, say...
a muscle.
Let's leave the muscle. Let's talk about romance first.
But that is the reason why she's even rolling her eyes up.
Let's
Good morning. It is 9 o'clock.
Spice up your life. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. Traffic.
Yeah, so it looks like Thika Road is going to be a mess for most parts of the morning. In and outbound, unfortunately, because of what we see, that accident that took place there had a number of accidents around this morning, and it's because people are in a hurry to go where? I don't know. But you need to take it easy, guys. So it's ending in terms of traffic right around Mombasa Road. And hopefully that won't last too long. After you get past the construction that is happening around Bellevue, you should be fine then heading towards Nyayo Stadium roundabout. However, you're going to get onto Huru Highway and then you're going to join in that bumper-to-bumper traffic really all the way towards Westlands. Getting into the CBD, though, should not be too much of a headache. Coming off of Thika Road, we already know it's going to take you a minute or two before you get into the CBD. Coming off Gong Road, coming off Langata Road, also into the CBD should not be too difficult. All right. Anything else, let us know what you see. We still have about half an hour or so in traffic hour. So if we can get people moving a little bit quicker, let us know. And safely to Spice of MKE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Nduh Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Procedural conversation, something that is just, it's expected to happen, and then it takes a whole different twist and very many turns. An example of them is what's happening right now in the Senate with regards to the proposal by the Commission for Revenue Allocation on the third basis formula for division of spoils within the counties. 6 times they have attempted to get consensus, 6 times they failed. But first of all, let's even go back to since April last year, when the CRA sent their proposal to the Senate, senators kept quiet. And what politicians did is, because they were seeing that we're going to have the census in August, they started rallying their troops. Now you can see and understand why the conversation around the census was almost being overtaken by politicians, as opposed to being driven by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, on what the census is all about. And politicians were the ones who were there telling people, we are going to ferry you so that you can be counted, and your numbers shall reflect as numbers of this particular constituency and this particular county. When the results came out, we still saw the greatest reaction coming from politicians. Those that were saying, no, our numbers have been tinkered with, our numbers have been doctored. How can our population reduce? What are you talking about? How? Where did 200,000 people go to? And all that comes to a head when you come to Parliament or the Senate and you realize that the proposal by the Commission on Revenue Allocation has changed some of the parameters on how money is allocated to counties. And it gives some sort of prominence to population this particular time, as opposed to previous 2 formulas, which were not giving such high prominence to population. And so it brings the whole issue of, is this another drive, renewed marginalization? Is this a new way of those who do not want to support devolution to fight devolution by coming up with a formula that just denies counties that were hitherto marginalized more resources that can elevate them to same development, or at least closer development level as the rest of you guys that have had for the last 50 years. It brings in a conversation where people now start talking about, why are we giving money to trees and camels and goats? Money should follow people where people are. In some areas of this country, we only have trees and desert and bushland. Why are we pouring money there? How much have we sent? And then now when it gets to that point, it starts becoming emotional. And it comes back into, so you people and we camels don't live in the same country.
Wow. Okay.
This is where now it has gotten. And then
it goes south completely.
Off the rails. Off the rails. It has now become a conversation about certain areas of this country that want to continue sitting on the heads of other areas of this country, and not wanting to see development come to those areas of this country. And then it also moves to the conversation about whether these certain areas have political patronage that is pushing them and helping them.
It's a narrative that finds a very welcome home among very many people. And if it's being pushed by politicians who will selectively point to things that suit the argument, it's something that if not brought, if not reined in, and not given, should we say, a balanced perspective, is a sort of thing that could enter the realms of hate speech.
Yep.
And worse. And why do I say this? That there has been marginalization is a fact that we cannot run away from. That other parts of the country have developed more than others over the years is a fact we cannot run away from. But to speak of it as though this is what has been happening all along is a fallacy. It is not true. Because with devolution, we've had something that has never happened before. counties have actually received money. The county governments have actually received money, and it's in the billions, to try and begin the process of sorting out some of these wrongs in a manner that the people of those counties would find effective and useful to themselves, meaning it is your money, make the decision as to what you feel you should put the money into.
Right, and with that came an element of recognition that previously was not, that most of these areas were not privy to. That, all right, there were so many conversations that took place in Kenya at that time, or so much agitation that recognized us also as part of this republic, recognize us. And so what devolution did is that it allowed that to happen. And I don't think anybody can really say, if they wanted to deal with even the slimmest iota of honesty, they would not then be able to say that these areas that had previously been marginalized, as it were, then did not get any attention. It just is not true. It just isn't true. Now, you can't say that it's true. You can't say that it's ever enough, because they were not given a head start previously. These areas that would have been marginalized before, they were never given a head start. But they did receive. Whereby they never did before. There is something that could have been done with it. But to then say now that the argument is taken to say that, only some people would continually benefit, it just is not true. And I actually feel that the trajectory that this entire thing has taken really is far off from where it should be going. Whereby you're trying to look at further development within a country, but then it goes again towards tribal politics.
But you know where
it goes then back towards individual politics, unfortunately.
But you know where it gains traction is when, for instance, something as touchy and emotive and important as education, then you have a situation where it is in the public domain that when people ask for what you would consider affirmative action, for instance, if somebody comes from an area that has previously been disadvantaged and is still disadvantaged, whether it's because of distance, whether it's because of infrastructure, and someone says admission into university has to be the same for everybody, they will read, we are continually and continuously still being marginalized, because the wherewithal that other parts of the country have to be able to achieve this is not the same as us. That's just a fact. So all I'm saying is that it's a narrative which, unfortunately, politicians will twist and use to their own advantage. The reality of the situation and how it should be dealt with is then lost in that conversation. Completely lost. And what we have is two polarizing views. And the polarizing views can very well exist, but the reality of the situation should also exist alongside it.
Several things, need to be laid on the table. Number one, and a conversation that, like you said, CT, we cannot run away from, is the fact that we, with devolution and with Constitution of Kenya 2010, we sought to bring equity. Yes. Deliberately sought to bring equity to the country, so that every person in this country feels that they belong to the country called Kenya. Also, we sought to ensure that those that were for a long time not receiving as much support from the national government as they should have, or from the rest of the country as they should have, start feeling that they are being appreciated, and they start feeling like they're being uplifted. And they get more resources, something like, all the kind of money that we are talking about going to those counties, so that they can accelerate development to bring it closer to those others. Another conversation that we cannot really run away from is whether those counties then have embraced what has come as the benefits of Constitution of Kenya 2010. Whether the leaderships of those counties are seeing the opportunity and saying, this is an opportunity that we have, and I've got the primary job that I have only one job to do, to make sure that every shilling that I receive goes towards developing my people, so that my people can also get as close to the development in the other parts of the country as possible. Those conversations we must have. Then the other conversations that keep coming in, and I don't know whether we must have them or not, is when we start pitting them as communities against one another. When the conversation moves into saying that the people of this certain region, if you look at them, they are the ones who are not for this constitution. They are the ones who are not interested in development and addressing the plight of the others. That is another conversation that now comes into this realm, and I'm wondering, maybe
Where did it
sometimes
come from?
maybe sometimes it's important to address some of these skeletons, bring them out, and
think
let's iron it out.
I think it is appropriate that they should be addressed. And if you're going to address them, then let's start from what I may call the beginning. Let's talk of independence and the period prior to independence. Who was advantaged and who was disadvantaged? Let's start there.
Okay.
And then look at the progression, because you will find that before independence, there were parts of this country that, should we say, did not experience the same horrors of colonization as others. So they didn't experience certain disadvantages that others did. Now, unfortunately, this is a tick and dog situation, because some of the areas where there was the greatest influence of colonialism, and I'm talking about the negative aspects of it, came the influence of positive, because you had a face-to-face with these people and you could see what they did, how they did it, and you could emulate because you saw the benefits of it. Those who didn't have it had an absence of it. You're talking about schools, the availability of them. Independent schools that some people developed.
Yeah.
You need to go a little back into history and be a bit realistic as to some of the things that happened, because the entire country was colonized. But not everybody was put into gulags. Not everybody had to fight for land that had been taken away from them. Not everyone was displaced and moved around. These are the realities. There are communities that were pushed out of their land completely and given 99 years, some 999 leases. What I often ask, what language were they speaking when they were making these deals and
For
getting people to
then
sign these things?
understand what it meant.
There are all these things that need to be addressed. And then if you move into independence and the time after, there'll be other issues that will come up. If you talk about the period after the first presidency and the second, there are issues that still need to come up. So where do we want to start?
So are we saying that the remnants of these issues, of these things that happened, even pre-independence and then independence and then later, are still the issues that are being dealt with now, even right here in the middle of this Senate conversation? Or
they're being brought up, not dealt with. They are being brought up.
So the remnants of them are still being brought up.
They're being brought up.
That is where it's coming in here. And that is what is tainting or clouding the minds of people right now, that they cannot come up with a decision?
No, that's really not it. There are two separate discussions taking place here. Remember, the discussion about the disparity is just a discussion on its own. Even last year, this disparity existed. Even the year before it existed.
Yes, it did.
And money for the counties was still given. So why is this discussion taking place now? Has there suddenly been a bigger disparity than there was previously?
Still the same landmass?
Precisely. And the discussion that has also come in now, resources within counties. Who should benefit more? These are viable discussions that must be had. But you must have it within the context of understanding a simple thing. We're a nation. And you must understand that in this nation, even as we talk about these things, there is the role that this thing that we like talking about disparagingly, the government, the role the government plays. And in the absence of government, some of these things that we talk about wouldn't even be what they are. So how do we write our thinking so that we actually demarcate and we compartmentalize and say, look, are we talking about sorting out historical issues? Or are we talking about dividing this 300 and how much?
16.5 billion shillings.
Okay.
There's also the conversation, even and the addendum to that, 316.5 billion shillings against a national budget of 3 trillion shillings.
Yes.
So where is the rest of the money? 2.5 trillion shillings is being left to the national government.
Yes.
How is that 2.5 being utilized?
In short, where is it going?
To develop the entire country.
Yeah, where is it going?
Because that's the other conversation that's also emerging.
It must be had.
So as we talk about dividing this 316.5 billion and how much each county is getting, the 2.5 trillion that is at the national government,
where does it go?
Where does it go? In which parts of the country is it more concentrated in, and which ones is it not? That is also another conversation that we must have.
It most certainly must be had. And indeed, when people complain about marginalization, that conversation cannot be wished away.
Yep.
It must be addressed head on. This marginalization that we speak of, what is it in and what do you think ought to be done? You, the person who feels, you, the people who feel you're marginalized, what ought to be done for the process of righting this wrong to be righted? What must be done?
And this is where now I fault both sides of leaders, all right? Those that are advocating for this formula to be rejected, and they are arguing on the basis of marginalization and continuation of marginalization, because they're not saying this is what we'd like to see.
No,
they're not raising the conversation of even asking hard questions on the other 2.5 trillion. They just mention it in passing. They don't focus on this is what 2.5, the amount of money that we've received in the last 7 years, 3 billion or so for, or X number of billions for these counties. This is what it has done. And can you see what we are talking about as a country? If you continue to ensure that these people are allocated this amount of money, we are going to be able to get to this certain point. We don't have those conversations. Those people are raising the issue of, oh, someone called us trees, someone called us camels. The other side is also not focusing on the conversation of this 316.5. This is how it has been divided so far. This is how it is creating reverse marginalization in our counties because of the small amount of money that we've been receiving vis-a-vis the kind of population that we've been having. Instead of bringing up that conversation, they talk about why are we giving money to trees and camels.
And Eric, that conversation within the counties has the same sort of tinting. Because you'll find, depending on where the governor comes from or whoever they feel is in power, they'll see this clan seems to be benefiting a little more than we are.
Yeah, this particular sub-county
seems to be benefiting. Why are they receiving more roads than we are receiving? Now, you brought in something that actually also must be looked into. Reverse discrimination, as you call it, or marginalization. When you have a situation in this country, and this one is a sensitive one, where the bulk of the country seems to have ganged up against one or two members of the community, what do you think these people who feel ganged up against think or feel? It goes beyond marginalization, really. It puts the entire thinking of those communities in a really genuinely precarious position.
Well, don't you think already that they've already drank from the poison chalice in this case, where communities, look, just from this conversation alone, right? 6 times shy of not being able to do something or doing something, there are people who are already having this thought. There are people who are already thinking in this manner. There are communities who are already believing, just from the words that are being uttered, that, all right, it could be that this is the case. It could be that they cannot agree on this because we who were marginalized before are now being re-marginalized because of this conversation that's taking place. And this is one of the dangers of what this conversation can actually bring about, because people are going to get into that mood of thinking already.
The conversation that people perhaps don't particularly want to have is what it is that the leaders of our counties have in terms of responsibilities to their people, and really the pertinent question, what they have done with the billions that they have actually received.
Nobody wants to answer this
Why
question.
I talk about this reverse discrimination is this. The question one should also ask, how did we get here? How did we get to a point where you're in a country where the bulk of your country people or your countrymen and women don't seem to agree with you or see eye to eye? How did we get here? And conversely, how did you get to a point where you decided that this marginalization must focus on two or one community? What is it that happened for us to get to that particular point? Now, these are questions that must be asked, and these are questions that must be discussed, but significantly with regard to the division of spoils. For heaven's sake, tell us what you've been doing with the billions that you've been receiving. Even as you ask for more, tell us. Tell your people what you've been doing. Show them. You've been spending it. You must be spending it on something.
Then the clamor, look, I tend to agree, because then the clamor would make sense. There's this agitation for this amount, or to say that we need more, or don't take away from what we were receiving last year. To me, it would only make sense if you were able to have a track record to say, this is what we've actually done with it, and it would make sense for us to continue getting this amount or more, because then it would allow us to do this, that, or the other thing. But unfortunately, there's that audit doesn't take place. It is
not the lead of the conversation.
Never is. Conversation where it should
because it should be starting by saying, in 2012, the number of primary schools in my county were X.
There you go.
In 2017, the number of primary schools in my county, X. In 2020, this is the number. And you see, it's because in 2013, we had this money to spend. In 2014, we had this money to spend. And you can definitely there show. You see,
And if you take this money away,
if you take this money away, this is what we are.
This is
this is
what
our
will
projection.
happen.
Talk about health facilities.
We have
Yep.
this number of
Yes.
people in this county who are suffering from this particular disease.
Yes.
And we find that we are prone to this because of the geographical area, because of eating habits, because of food that is available in this area or food that is not available. And because of that, we've had to put up certain health facilities that require certain equipment to treat these diseases that people are predisposed to.
Yeah.
We have been able to do this over the last 5 years, and we've seen that the numbers continue to grow because of certain things. There are other measures that we want to put in place to allow this to happen. Without these much needed funds, we are then not able to do this, that, or the other thing. It seems to me that that's the conversation that you want to have for a functional government. You don't have those conversations. You're basically telling people, give us the money so that we can do whatever it is that we wish to do with it, and then don't complain.
It plays on a psyche that has been labeled a Kenyan psyche. Eric puts it well. Kick the can down the road.
Look,
it is easy to explain your problem when somebody else has brought it upon you.
Yep.
So
Create an enemy.
Yes.
And
Let that
galvanize people around that enemy.
Let that person be responsible for the problems that you have.
This is one of the problems in a republic like this, whereby the cake, excuse me,
Bless you.
is the cake on the national that everybody gets to share from. In the federal system, whereby every governor is a god, his own mini president, you have federal funds that you use at the state system. You get only a little part of the state kitty. The rest of it, you will come up with income-generating activities to fund your government. There's only
It is
so
your
much.
government.
Oh yes, there's only so much that the national government will give to you. The rest, you do it yourself. So guess what? Your people complain, it is you. Your people celebrate, it is you. When you come back and you talk about how the nation is doing as a whole, then you may contribute on what they've asked you to do with it. But in the meantime, that little area that you've been given to govern, you will look for the funds that you will use to support that area. None of this drama coming back and making noise about how some people are marginalized or not. You have your group of people that you have to deal with.
You know, that adds to the kind of problems that we have in this country, yeah? Because there's a group, it appears like we have two groups of people. One group does not want to let go of keeping the national treasury. Okay? One wants to be the one that controls. You collect all the money, bring it here, then I'll give it to you. I'll give you kidogo. There's the other group that does not want to have that responsibility of saying, I've collected this much and this is how much I want to spend. And of course, there are those that have the fear of, if we allow each of them to collect and spend, then we're basically saying that there's going to be a lot of lack of transparency in collection and expenditure of the same. Which is why the CRA, the experts at the CRA in their wisdom, have started introducing some of these elements into the conversation. One of them is talking about fiscal effort. That your revenue generating capacity shall also determine how much you receive from this national kitty. And it gives, so far it's been given a 2% threshold, but it's a 2% of a good conversation to start having. The other one is prudence, financial prudence. The money that you received, looking at the reports by the Auditor General and other reports, how did you expend that money? So if the Auditor General's report gives you a clean bill of health, then you get the entire 2%, tick, and you receive a higher allocation, which I think is a conversation that now we should be having going forward and saying, you know what, some of these things that have started being introduced, maybe we increase this percentage, remove the percentage from population and give some extra more percentage on fiscal effort and prudence. How did you spend this money? How do we grade you from your previous performance? How have you behaved so far?
Eric has actually hit the proverbial nail on the actual head. You know, that issue of performance and the previous performance is also subject to actually this very discussion. Oftentimes, it appears like the government can't do anything right in our eyes, and we keep pointing at facts that we feel should be pointed out to. But other people see it as government bashing. But it's historical. It's what we've seen. So the discussion is, we are here because of what has happened in the past, but we cannot then talk about the present and not talk about how we got there. And we know. If the government acquires a certain reputation for not doing what it says it's going to do, what do you expect? You say something, people disbelieve you. Has this not been the bane of COVID?
Yep.
The government says it's COVID, people says,
No, whatever.
what COVID?
Now look at who was getting the contract to supply PPEs.
Yep.
And
It's
how
in the
much they are
receiving?
How much they are receiving?
There's even
And
someone
who are
who
they?
got an order and they couldn't even complete the order.
Imagine.
How did they get the order?
In the first place.
And it's in the public domain.
Yep. And you're talking about fighting a pandemic. So this is emergency. This is something that you ought to ensure that
Needs
the benefit
action
goes
now.
straight to the people
Yeah.
immediately.
And then think about now the response to some of these things when you have, should I say, progressive senators who come up and say, folks, I know what the party lines are, but let's have a different conversation here, shall we?
Yeah.
And do you see the response?
The answer to that is that essentially we will throw you out of the party for coming
Toe
up
the
with
line.
if you don't toe the line, we throw you out for coming up with something that would actually, if you want to look at it, would make some sense, right? In order to move this conversation along. So what kind of, I'm trying to think of the word that, barbaric behavior would it be for you to tell somebody, you know what, whatever it is that you're coming up with,
Whatever
makes
you're
sense.
thinking, stop thinking.
Yes, just don't even think. We're telling you this is the way in which you're going to operate.
In the days of freedom fighting and what have you, in the times when we're in college, there's a word that was very popular.
Reactionary.
You want the status quo to be maintained at all costs.
Yeah.
So
And
don't
dare
think.
you oppose it.
No, don't think, because now thinking leads to speaking to doing.
So don't think.
Yep.
Don't.
Just follow.
Just
Let's
say, this is
start
what
from
you
that
said you're going
point.
to do. Follow.
You are in there. We have sent you in there. We are the ones who put you in there. And you're going to follow what we tell you to do.
And if you misbehave,
And we're not
we
going to
remove
explain
you.
to you why. You don't have the capacity to understand our thinking. Okay?
This simple thing that we've told you,
You
follow.
just do what you've been told to do.
Then we'll give you more responsibilities of listening to more serious things.
Yeah.
Which, again, you must also follow.
Just listen.
That brings us to the point of the conversation where we'll be asking you to join in now. We are seeing that the senators are being pulled and pushed by their political party leaders. Sakaja Murkomen may be kicked out of Jubilee Party, wants the Jubilee Party Deputy Chairman, Vice Chairman, Mr. Murathe. He says that, you know what, what we expect to see is the Jubilee members of the Senate voting in a certain way, which is there's a proposal that has been put forth by the Finance Committee of the Senate, which is chaired by one person that we have told how to present this report. The rest of you shall just vote yes to that report and we move on.
We're telling
If
what
you
to do.
don't, mutakipata, and you will be here. So that's what we're asking. Is this really advancing democracy? What question can we ask him?
How would you explain why the three? Let me just maybe help you to form that question. Because this is the question that came from the Jubilee Party Vice Chairman, David Murathe. How would you explain why the three that you've mentioned, why went against the formula, yet their counties had benefited? It is cheap politics, and we will let them out. We will let them out.
Oh, dear.
We let them out so that they can go politic freely.
Oh, dear.
Why would they go against it and their areas had benefited?
All right. So the question then is, do you support the proposed action against censure against these three Jubilee senators?
Right.
And these Jubilee senators are Nairobi Senator, not Kipchumba, Johnson Sakaja, the Elgeyo Marakwet Senator, Kipchumba Murkomen, and Anwar Loitiptip, the senator for Lamu. These are three Jubilee senators whose counties are set to benefit from the proposal as has been put forth by the Committee on Finance. Nairobi is gaining, Elgeyo Marakwet is gaining, Lamu is gaining. Shida yenu ni nini?
Why are you going against
Just
it?
listen to that
What
logic.
is your
Just
problem?
listen to that logic.
9:30. Let's take a quick break. Take a look at the weather and traffic, and then we'll pick your calls on this. 0719-012-600. Do you support the threat to censure the three senators from Nairobi, Elgeyo Marakwet, and Lamu for not voting with the rest of the pack when it comes to this third basis formula in the Senate? Good morning.
Spice FM. Njeri. The weather with Spice FM.
Mostly cloudy in Nairobi at 16 degrees. We'll see highs of 23 today and mostly cloudy conditions right down till the evening. Nakuru will have rain showers later with highs of 23 and lows of 11. Njeri at 22, the high today, lows of 13. Currently partly cloudy conditions at 16. Eldoret is partly cloudy. The haze seems to have disappeared. Thunderstorms expected for later, highs of 18 and lows of 12. Kisumu today, 21 degrees and mostly cloudy. However, it'll be afternoon of rain with highs of 26 and lows of 19. Mostly cloudy in Kakamega this morning. 23 degrees the high and lows of 15 with a shower or two in the afternoon. 26 degrees in Malindi and mostly cloudy, highs of 28 and lows of 24. Looking in Mombasa where it's mostly cloudy at 25 degrees, going to a high of 28 and lows of 23. It's mostly cloudy in Kampala at 21 degrees, highs of 24 and lows of 18. It's patches of fog in Dar es Salaam throughout the day, highs of 30 and lows of 22. It's warming up in Joburg ever so slightly to 9 degrees, mostly sunny conditions with highs of 21 and lows of 5. Clear conditions in Lagos, Nigeria, 24 degrees, highs of 29 with a sprinkle in the afternoon. Let's take a look into Europe where in London it's sunny at 13, highs of 24 and lows of 12. In the City of Love it's 15 degrees and sunny conditions, highs of 26 and lows of 14. And finally getting round to Tuesday morning in New York, 24 degrees. It's a tropical storm warning there. Thunderstorms expected later with highs of 27 and lows of 22. Better on Mombasa Road, not too much traffic as you're trying to get then into the CBD. You can veer off then getting through Nairobi West and then to Bagathi Way if you're trying to get into the city centre much faster. Otherwise, you're going to have to stay on Uhuru Highway for some time as you try to get into the CBD. All right, the traffic jam along Jogo Road today is starting from the Makadara railway station towards town. Vehicles are moving ever so slowly. Today, you don't know what's going on, but they're moving very slowly, getting to the roundabout and then into the CBD. It's still slow coming off Thika Road into the CBD and out, unfortunately. That one you're going to have to sit it out, guys, until that whole situation is sorted out. We'll be out of traffic hour quite soon, and so it shouldn't be too terrible of a Tuesday. Spice of MKE, not to forget, you can get in touch if you see something out of the ordinary or you want to be a good person and help out where you might be stuck.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
6 minutes to 10 o'clock. The conversation continues. So 3 Jubilee senators are not going, are not following what is expected of them. This is Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja, Kipchumba Murkomen of Elgeyo Marakwet, and Anwar Loitip of Lamu. In the proposed formula, in what has been tabled by the Finance Committee of the Senate and what had earlier been proposed by the Senate Majority Whip, Irungu Kangata, these counties, after about 3 years when this formula comes to kick in, will benefit, will get extra money going to them in this new formula by CRA. Not by CRA, these amendments brought by the Finance Committee. Now, these 3, among others, decided to join this whatever group of bandwagon they call themselves, Team Kenya, and they went to the Senate last week wearing this flag on their neck as a tie and voting against what is expected of them. So, the deputy party chairman, and this is Mr. David Murada, is quoted in the Standard this morning saying, it is cheap politics, we'll let them out so that they can go and politic freely. They risk being censured by their party. And we're asking whether you support this kind of move by the Jubilee Party. Jimmy Kimani calling from Malindi. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yeah, asante sana. It's my first time to call here. But what I really want to put on this motion is that, you know, in the past, we had Fuata Nyayo era, where you were supposed to follow a step after a step. And after the Nyayo era went, now we have the Fuata Mkono era. This Fuata Mkono era is being dismantled because of specific people who are not in the right place. Because there was a reason why the president was elected. And there are other factors that led to other people inside the leadership. And this is the hardship we are facing at present. You cannot tell me that the constitution, ukiangalia, if you look at Article 27, where it said in bold, equality, freedom, and freedom from discrimination. As leaders, there is no way we can say that this constitution, yes, it has some problems other places, but other places it is okay. So, clearly, how can someone try to discriminate other people on the ground that there was money which was given to them, they did not do well, so now there is nothing to show, so they are not supposed to be added for money. So what we do, we reduce some money from them so that they don't eat this money they work. This is wrong and this is false. There are many government policies that have led to instability.
So do you feel that this particular thinking
of the economy of a specific area?
Jimmy, there's a question here, Jimmy, from CT.
So yes. Are you saying that the formula as was being advertised and being proposed would lead to instability within the country?
Yes, obviously. When I am a Kikuyu, when someone talks about that we cannot give camels and trees money to camel and trees, one man, one vote, this is so awful to me.
But that is not the formula. That is people's pronouncements.
Yes, it's someone's opinion, but I know the problem of a comment. Your opinion, you may be right with you have a right of your opinion.
Yeah.
But if your opinion is stupid, I have a right also to say that your opinion is stupid.
To call it
because
out.
there is a word stupid. You see, so now what I'm trying to say is this, if there is any leader that did not perform well with the money that he was given, and this is the grounds that you are putting, we have to give you less money. Why would you say that you're fighting corruption? You're supposed to take that leader to put him into accountability and prove where he has gone wrong, take him to court, push him out. We have the bodies that have been put into this activity. Now, they are saying that they are trying to remove the powers of the president to give to the bodies which have, independent bodies which have been set, to be given all the power without the president coming into them. So, if these bodies now decide that this is what we have decided, the president will say, nitafanya nini? Nataka nifanye nini? Because it is not under his power.
Yeah, a whole different conversation.
So, we are
Thank you very much,
careful.
Jimmy. Thank you very much. I'd like to take another caller here. Good morning. This is Spice FM.
Hello.
Hello, how are you? Hello, good morning. This is Spice FM. What's your name, sir? Okay, so you can call in 0719-012-600. That's the number to call. And as we continue this conversation, 0719-012-600. What do you think of this threat by the top leadership of Jubilee to censure the senators who vote against what is considered the party position?
You know, the new constitution being actualized is really, if you ask me, the heart of this debate. Because historically we are accustomed to what we're hearing. The party tells you what to do, the individual tells you what to do, the president tells you what to do, and you do it.
Yeah.
We've had a multipartism, but that same thinking is within parties. The party tells you what to do, the same thinking. It's regurgitated. But now you have a situation where the constitution created independent institutions and they're acting independently. This is new. It's like...
Both the CRA, even the Senate. We've got also to remember, by the way, that what is being discussed now in the Senate is a complete variation from, many times variation from what the CRA presented.
Completely.
The Senate acting within its mandate because it's allowed to do that. But
it doesn't have to adopt the formula that has been suggested.
It looks at it,
and
it
can
considers
then use it. It considers and then could use it to then form a decision for which they will use to go forward.
Yeah, but a new formula must be.
Yes.
There has to be a formula.
There has to be a formula. Paul Kinyanjui in Makueni, good morning.
Good morning to you, Eric.
How are you, Paul?
I'm very fine, thank you.
What do you think of this threat by the Jubilee leadership to censure the senators?
Well, I think even before looking at that, you see, these leaders are there because of our vote.
Mm-hmm.
We are the ones who voted them in.
Mm.
And one of the things I've been asking myself is, when we are criticizing or talking about these leaders, the problem, I think, is in electing the right people in the position.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking at the whole issue about the distribution and looking at, for instance, a person like me, just an example.
Mm-hmm.
You see, I was born in Nairobi, grew up in a different county, went for education in a different county, worked in a different county.
Mm-hmm.
And now you find that this whole issue of about the distribution of the funds and everything, not many people know about it as maybe the leaders think about it.
Mm.
So it's a complicated issue, and it should be given more time, I think,
to be understood.
Yeah, to be understood. It's only that for the last 3 weeks, the media, you've done a fantastic job to bring the whole matter to the public dominion. We knew nothing. Yeah.
Thank you, Paul.
You've done a wonderful job, yeah.
Thank you, Paul. Jeff in Kwale, good morning.
Morning, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Fine, thanks.
Yeah, how are you guys?
Good.
We are well, thank you.
Thank you. My contribution.
Yep.
I think I'll sum it with what a friend put the other day. I see it like a man who is polygamous. And one wife has 7 children, and the other one has 2. And now you want to share your resources. How do you distribute them? Do you look at who has a bigger compound or who has more children? Both points would look varied, but I think at this point we are putting politics, and so both of them don't look valid. They just look like it's politics everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
What I think Jubilee has decided to do, I may not agree into it per se.
Yeah.
But when they decided to censure the leader of the majority in parliament, we did not make noise.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us made noise and nobody listened. When they decided to censure Kindiki, some of us made noise, nobody listened.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why we should make noise now that they've decided to censure Sakaja and the other guys. It is actually Jubilee playing its own politics at either at its own detriment or at its own advantage. We can't even understand now.
So you're saying this is normal behavior?
Eating its own children.
It is normal political behavior. It's like a dog that chews on its puppies. I mean, we don't even understand why.
Thank you, Jeff. Let's hear from Zachary. Zachary, good morning.
Oh, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Morning, Zachary.
I hope everyone, including Mwalimu, Andrew, and the rest are okay.
We are all fine.
Yes.
Now, I want to use you people as an example, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
For you, by the way, I was trying to tell somebody yesterday to be listening to Spice FM, and I hope that he is listening because he has called me, and he has confirmed so.
Great.
That's my work. I go proselytizing Spice FM, yeah?
You're a good evangelist.
Now, for you, and he asked the names of the people who presented the situation room in the morning, and I had to tell all their names, yeah?
Very good.
And
to the conversation on Jubilee.
Sure.
And
now,
Senate.
you guys, for you to qualify to be called Spice FM workers, I know there are rules and regulations that you are given.
Uh-huh.
And you are told you have to protect these rules and regulations and you have to live by them, yeah?
Yeah.
Now, Zachary is also part of Spice FM because I call regularly, I listen to you, is it?
Very true.
Suppose today I called you and I talked something bad, that should not be aired on air, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely you are going to blacklist me and say, oh, this guy now is calling us while drunk, is it?
Mm-hmm.
And therefore he is of no input to our endeavors, yeah?
Right.
The same case. Sakaja is the the senator of Nairobi because of politics. And he is in politics through the train that is called Jubilee. Now he has come and he has said, "Oh, I've grown to be on my own, and therefore I can go against the rules and principles of this train called Jubilee." Why should he not be censored, actually?
So he's basically just being brought back to the line.
Definitely. And that is what happened to Mr. Kibiki and the rest who have been censored and they have been thrown away.
So there's nothing wrong with
not because they are hated, but they have to do the right.
But why can't Jubilee allow for divergence of opinion?
Wouldn't you be happy that the people that are in your party are actually thinking, functioning, agitating, debating human beings?
Allowing a variation of thoughts.
Let me answer that one by saying, you see now, before they come to the public to show that they have got divergent issues, they should have convened that they should have looked at themselves internally, without coming to us to show, And now that is where they are failing.
So they've failed in that. They have not ironed out these issues in their bedroom before coming out.
They haven't. You know, Mr. Eric, you have your family and you have your kids and your wife, is it? And even the extended family. Before we come to see what you people are doing or to guess what you are thinking, by the actions that you are going out to portray in public, you should have discussed them internally. You know, they are called bedroom matters,
dirty linen.
Dirty linen. Don't bring it to the public. But now the Jubilee Party, and you know why I think this is coming because most of these people are young. You know, young blood is a bit hard to control.
Who's young? Kipchumba, Sakaja, and Loitip.
Those guys.
How old must you be to be young, Zachary?
The party is younger than them.
Anyway, my point is, if Waithera does not do the line of what I'm saying,
she can leave.
You
let her go and be on her own. But when
she's
in my house...
Point made, Zachary. Thank you. Let's hear from Edward in Mombasa. Edward, good morning.
Morning, Spice FM.
Good morning.
Fine. From my thinking and understanding of this CRA thing, I think that the genesis of this problem is that we have parties that are region-based. And I'm not undermining the fact that Lamu is in course, but as a member in the Senate is from Jubilee, I want to acknowledge the fact that Jubilee has a majority of the senators from Central and Rift Valley, who are mostly the gainers in this new formula that they want us to adopt. Hello?
Yes,
we're listening.
So I think they punish the senators that are going against the formula. It will be unfair to them because there comes to a point where you have to think about not just the people that you represent, but the larger country as a whole. And I think in doing so, that is what Sakaja and the rest are doing.
So
because when you say that Kiambu and if you do a comparison, the guy who called from was it Kwales talked about
Edward, I've got to stop you, Edward. I think because you're doing two things at the same time. I can hear it's as if you're driving and then you're speaking to us. I'd like to urge for abundance of caution. Please park on the side so we can continue the conversation as we take this quick break at 10 minutes to 10 o'clock. It's a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Having a conversation with our listeners this morning, 0719-012-600. What do you make of the cat and mouse games, the shenanigans, what else you want to call it? The drama and everything else that's happening in the Senate. This morning, what we are reading is that the deputy leader, the deputy party chairman of Jubilee is threatening censure against 3 errant Jubilee senators who voted, and they seem to be voting against what is considered the party direction. Good morning.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Spice FM. Nakuru. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
9 minutes to 10 o'clock. So we go back to the line.
Mornings
Good morning.
done right.
Bernard, are you there? So the conversation
Yes,
we're
I
having
am.
is about the Senate. Good morning, Bernard. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, Eric?
Sisi tuko salama kabisa. Tunashukuru Mwenyezi Mungu.
Thank you so much. Now, I want to add to my voice there.
Yes.
Looking at the way the discussion is going, and being someone who has traveled across this nation,
Yep.
it will be a disservice if we discriminate those guys from Asal region.
Okay.
Actually, if you happen to be in those areas, actually, the sessional paper 10 of 1965 really did us disservice. And it will not be good for us to just say we don't need an affirmative action. To believe party matters, they need to look at their country, not only about their own internal issues. That is my point, Eric.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Bernard. Paul in Mombasa, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Paul.
Habari ya Nairobi.
Baridi.
As kidogo joto, we are enjoying kidogo, so you can come. So, just a small one to this discussion.
Yep.
I think even by the way you put it first, it's these guys are being censured by a party that sponsored them. You know, by itself, it's an answer to everything. If I sponsor you, then I own you. I remember this time when we had this gentleman from, I think it's somewhere in Nyanza, some constituency in Nyanza, who was being whipped from his, I think, committee, health committee or something. Or he's on Nyango or Chen or someone. But he's an independent candidate. You know, he stood on his ground and he did not have to toe anyone's line or whatsoever, because he is independent. He has an independent decision and everything. But most of our politicians, 90%, have been sponsored by some. At some point, they've been given some money by the same people they are disowning, or they don't want to toe whatever they are saying. So the day politicians starts being elected because of their qualities, because of their values, because of what they stand for, they'll start being independent. But as long as they're being elected on the basis of the party, on the basis of who they are behind, then let us not find something funny in this. We will have to toe the line anyway.
Asante.
That's my thought.
Still on the phone line, 0719-012-600. George calling in from Germany. Good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
How are you, George?
Good morning. I think these guys are trying to do what we call divide and rule. And divide and rule means that it is better for me. But one thing I should tell Jubilee, they should allow and accept when there is criticism and dissenting opinions. Thank you.
So that's what they should allow. Basically, allow freedom of expression.
Yes.
Thank you very much, George. In which city of Germany are you calling in from?
I'm calling from Marburg.
Marburg.
And where is that place exactly, George?
It's 100 kilometers from Frankfurt. And it's a city whereby it's named after a certain fever called Marburg fever.
Ah.
Because of the pharmacy that discovered that virus.
Asante.
Thank you very much, George, and glad to hear that you're catching us very well on our digital platforms, www.spicefm.co.ke. What are you? Are you on Facebook, Twitter, or website?
I'm on YouTube and also Facebook and Twitter.
Asante sana. Have a good one.
God bless. Bye.
From George in Germany to George in Kisumu. Good morning.
Good morning to my friends. How are you doing there?
We are fine.
Well, fine. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the job you are doing and for maybe creating awareness to the nation and allowing us to contribute our views. Thank you so much. Let me contribute.
Yes, go ahead.
Now, I want to say that there are two things that are practically true and realistic here. One, this is politics. And it is politics that actually involves those people on higher ranks. And of course, there are some games that they're playing that are not very easy to actually understand. But according to my understanding, now I want to say perspective, political perspective. Now, that is why you see it is against maybe rules and maybe policies of the Jubilee for the juniors maybe to contradict whatever is being created by the seniors.
So they ought to toe the line.
They ought to toe the line. The number two, you know, these guys who are trying to maybe object, they are not up to anything sinister. What they are doing is that they are trying to create room for their reputation and maybe recognition. And by the end of the day, people will live to know their names and their existence.
Yeah.
That is what they are doing. They know very well that they are going to lose in this game, but what they want to do is they want to maintain their reputation.
They're building their profiles.
And their status quo, their profile, so that people will get to know that there is somebody called somebody and there is somebody called somebody.
Thank you, George. Thank you very much for your views, and thank you very much for calling in to the Situation Room this morning on 0719-012-600. So the senators are back in the Senate today. Let's see whether this time the motion, the amendments being sponsored by Sakaja, by the others, are going to be discussed, or whether we're going to go back to the party position, which lost last time. So, does that tie into the proverb?
Very much so. You see, if perception becomes your reality, that is what you hold dear to your heart. So your entire vision will be clouded by that perception. So, indeed, the eye will not forget what the heart has seen.
It'll stay like that.
It'll stay like that because that's what you feel, that's what you know, that's what you believe. So, your very vision is actually influenced by that.
Asante sana CT Muga. Nduh Okoh, say goodbye.
Goodbye, and we'll talk again tomorrow. The conversations continue. Keep alert.
What time does Monique come?
3 o'clock.
Continue the story.
Till 7 o'clock.
Right.
And then after that, the adults in the room from 7 to 10 p.m.
All right. Join us again tomorrow, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. in the Situation Room. Good morning. It's 10 o'clock.
Spice up your life. Spice up your life.